Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Cardinals lose last night. It was a rough one for the offense. And Alex, this has been a theme lately. We wondered earlier this week, are the Cardinals going through the same thing that we saw a year ago? Are we seeing the downfall where last year it was the pitching? Eric Fetty imploded. Miles Mikolas was awful. They didn't have any depth in their system, and so you watched it, and we were all like, okay, what do you do here? What's the plan? And there was no plan. There was no way for them to be able to dig themselves out of the grave. They were 6 feet under. It was gone. It was over. The season collapsed from there. Now, they were still mostly fine the rest of the way, but they were not the playoff contender that they appeared to be early in the season. Well, this year, it appears that thing is the offense. Over the last 10 days or so, the offense has completely cratered. And we've seen this happen, and it's been the big guys that have been most at fault. Jordan Walker has not been the same guy that he was early in the season. Ivan Herrera has not been the same guy that he was for the vast majority of the season. J.J. Weatherholt's going through it a little bit right now. Really, the only guy that's been hitting consistently is Lars Nootbaar, and that might be because he doesn't have all of the built-up track record that these other guys do. I think baseball's adjusting. The Cardinals clearly had figured it out early on, and they had made significant adjustments from the players that they were a year ago. And now you look at it, and baseball has adjusted to them. And they've got to find, all right, what is our adjustment back to the game? And it's a matter of what's going to determine their future, what's going to determine their trade deadline plans is very likely what are we going to do to adjust and how quickly can we adjust? Where are you at with them right now, Alex, especially after what we saw last night?
And guess what you just described? A team that's going through a little bit of a rebuild or a retool or a refresh, like a team that is now investing in their younger players and giving them more opportunities. They've got to learn what it takes to be in this position. And I know that's weird to say because Jordan Walker has been a big leaguer for 4 years and Burleson's been there for 4 years and Herrera's been there for 3 years. But like you are still at the early stages of some of these guys that are getting this. And this was that learning experiment. You know, I remember individually, Alec Burleson was a guy that I think it was his first season, if I'm not mistaken. He started off red hot, and then he got a little bit wear and tear down the stretch. And I think he talked about that offseason of, you know, I got to really focus on my conditioning to make sure that I can keep up that same pace that I did in the first portion of the year into an entire 162. And in the last couple of seasons, I think you've seen that a little from Alec Burleson. Liberatore was another one that last year you saw him hot early and then fall off late. And it's like, well, what do you look like for a full season? Well, now you're getting that with Jordan Walker because Jordan Walker, with the exception of his first year, has never had the pace that he just did in the first 3 months of the season. Herrera has had his spurts, but always has dealt with injuries. This is the first time he's been healthy through an entire season. J.J. Weatherholt is a rookie. This is his first time playing in the major leagues. So these 4 guys that I just mentioned there, these are the ones that I think all of us agreed, like, well, you found your foundation. This is what you're building towards. But this is also the rebuild, that the foundation you're building towards, all of these guys are going to have to adapt. And now you're going to find out how they adapt. If this carries on until September, I think we're going to have bigger questions. If this carries on for the month of July and then August, maybe they find that new energy and pick themselves back up, you're feeling a little bit different about it. But to me, like, it's a bummer. I feel like I've been waiting for this to happen for the last month, though, because they'd lose a series, they'd win a series, lose a series, and be like, oh, okay, well, they figured it out. Now you're starting to put them all together, and this is the hard part of when you're developing younger players.
Well, they don't have a slump buster now, right? Well, they had them, and they didn't even take advantage of them. But that's kind of what had been happening for the Cardinals is if they did lose a series, it would be, okay, well, that's surprising, right? You lose to the Twins. But then there wasn't the Atlanta Braves to follow, right? And that's the thing that's going on right now is not only are they kind of struggling, and I don't think this is a fatigue thing, by the way. If it is, there's some serious problems going on for the Cardinals because it's July. It's not September. If Walker got tired in September, Burleson, who you made reference to as he had mentioned that in the past.
Yeah, but July's the dog day of the summer, man.
No, this is not the dog day of summer. August, September's the dog day of summer. This is still early in the season, man, and if these guys are tired now, we got some problems.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I feel like this is the tough part of the season where you haven't had a lot of days off. Like, I feel like after the All-Star break is where playoff baseball starts to kick into the mindset. I feel like August is where you really get that rejuvenation. I feel like the end of June, beginning of July is the part that these guys are just dragging ass to try and get to the All-Star break.
And I don't think this is them being tired. I think this is baseball's adjusted. Like, I think this is just baseball happening. I don't think they're tired. I do think this is a tough part of the season, so I'm kind of in the middle of both of you. I think this is a tough part of the season. I think you are probably dragging a little bit, but I think a lot of this is baseball is adjusted to the Cardinals offense. And now it's a matter of them adjusting back. I think they'll do it. I think the offense is going to be fine long term. I don't have questions about Alec Burleson or J.J. Weatherholt or Jordan Walker or Vaughn Herrera. These guys are really good hitters. They're going to be good hitters, and I think they're going to figure it out. The question is on timing, because the Cardinals don't have what the Phillies have or what the Dodgers have or what the Yankees have. Those teams came into the season knowing we are a contender, we are going to be there in the end, and our plan going in is to buy at the trade deadline so long as we're in it. Even if they were a couple games back of a playoff spot, they're in it. And so they will continue to add to their roster. The Cardinals are the opposite of that, where they came into the season predisposed to believing we are not going to be a contender. This is a rebuild season for us. We're going to trade assets out and accumulate those assets in our minor league system. And so they have to prove otherwise. They have to not only be in it, but firmly in it. And guys, I don't know if you've looked at the standings lately, but the Chicago Cubs are going through a bit of a heater right now. And the Miami Marlins are going through a heater right now. The Cubs are now 3 games up on you. The Phillies are 3 games up on you. You are tied for the final wild card spot currently with those Miami Marlins that just made you look pretty bad in that series against them. Which means if you do not figure this out in the next, let's call it 3 weeks, and there will be about a 5-day stretch where you're not playing baseball over that time. It's about 20 games or so that you've got here prior to the trade deadline. It will be hard for Chaim Bloom to look at the team and say, I should not only keep my assets, I should trade for more. I should add to this team. That is where I find the timing of all of this to be so fascinating. They have to prove to Chaim in the front office, we are worthy of keeping this thing together and adding to it. Given what we're seeing right now, that's the biggest question to me. Will they be able to do that in time? I'm not worried about Walker. I'm not worried about Burleson. I'm not worried about Herrera. I'm not worried about Weatherholt. They're going to be fine. Can they be fine quickly enough to convince Chaim that he should add? I don't know.
And see, I don't think they're sitting in a position now to try and, I don't think this is a teetering scale. I think the front office probably saw that Diamondbacks and Marlins series and said, we kind of know what you are. And maybe you can change their mind, but I mean, you'd have to change their mind by winning the series against the Braves, the Cubs, and the Brewers.
Yeah, but I just don't look at it that way.
Because I think right now the front office, sorry to cut you off, BK, I think the front office focused on the draft. I think they're paying attention to what they're doing, but I don't think they've determined they're leaning right now we're sell just because that's what the expectations were to begin the year. But every front office you hear across baseball says this is about the draft, and it's not till the draft wraps up that you really.
But they have an eye on what they're doing.
Yeah, they have guys that handle that.
I agree they do, but I don't think they've already said we're sellers. I think they're still waiting to see what happens.
I'm not saying that they've put a stamp on it and say we're selling, boys, but I just always go back to what we've heard Doug say in the past. Like, there's always games in the middle of a season that you look at and you're like, man, that's when you figured it out.
But I don't know if you can say that when you're tied for the last wild card spot.
But watching you play against the Royals and struggling, and then the Diamondbacks who aren't a playoff team, and then you just get whooped up by the Marlins, I think if you're a front office member, you start to look at it and say, I think this is more of who they are. Now, can you change our mind still? Absolutely. By no means am I saying they've definitively said we're selling. I just think when we look back on it after they hit the deadline, and if they're sellers, I think you look back on the Marlins and Diamondbacks series as a sign of what's to come for the Cardinals. Now, if you go out there and you win today against the Braves, if you beat the Cubs, if you beat the Brewers, well, then we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, but that to me is just like, that's the season. You know, like the Blues go through this too, where it's ebbs and flows. And depending on when you ask me over the course of the year, you'll have a different answer on how good I think the team is. I feel the same way about the Cardinals. Like the same way that I felt in the negative side of things after the Royals and Diamondbacks series, I felt that way on the positive side of things after the Pirates and the Dodgers and the Astros series.
But that was before that, and they've never pulled themselves back up since the Royals series.
Didn't they beat the Padres in between that?
They did, yeah.
I thought the Padres
won 2 out of 3
that
against the Padres. Like,
and the Padres are a decent team.
We had a conversation literally 10 days ago about how the Cardinals have gone up against all of these other wild card contenders in the National League, and they've been better than all of them so far this season. So they've had a really bad week, basically, a 10-day stretch. And prior to that, they were 8 games above 500. So it's just a question of can they regain that form? Alex, I would say it's fair to believe you're skeptical of that, which is understandable given what the last 10 days have been and really what they've been for most of the last 30 days, where they've been a 500 club basically over that stretch. I'm a little more optimistic, but the timing of this all, the offense going cold, the opponents that you're about to go up against, it does not provide reasons for optimism. Whatever you believed going into this stretch is probably how you feel today. I don't think there's been anything that's taken place over the last week or so that's probably knocked you off of that position, good or bad. But it is reinforced, I would say, if you're on the negative side of things, how you feel on that side. We've got a lot to get into today. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. You can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. We are a bit of a fly by the seat of our pants show today. The Fast Lane does their Freedom Fridays. It's not technically a Friday, but it basically is for us because we're off tomorrow for the 4th of July holiday.
Freedom!
We've got to Ask Us Anything coming up at 11:45. We will be joined by Craig Johnson, the former Anaheim Ducks
Not the goalie.
assistant coach. He did play for the Blues at one point in time, by the way.
Just not goal.
He's going to join us coming up at 11:30. The Blues have basically signed their entire roster when Craig Johnson was their assistant. So we'll talk to him about Mason McTavish, an enforcer. We'll get his impression of Cam Fowler as well.
And Craig Cronin, who
My God,
was
man,
the
everybody.
assistant under Greg Cronin. So you're going to get a good feel.
Plenty of conversation to get into with Craig Johnson. We will be joined by one of our favorite hockey guests, Jeff Marek, later on today. Derrick Goold's going to join the show. Brad Thompson's going to stop by. And a lot of hearing from you as well. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Dealer's choice for you guys. Would you rather go our impression of what we've learned from Alex Steen's early moves with the Blues, or you want to react to that World Cup from yesterday with the U.S. men's
This is
national
an
team?
easy answer. We're going Steen. I'm just
U.S.
joking.
men's national team
we're
reaction
doing
next
that.
year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. That is the kind of win I didn't think the U.S. men's national team had in it. I know, Alex, you know I'm new to this sport, right?
I'm newer.
I'll watch the World Cup. I enjoy it. It's not something, though, that I would consider myself an expert in. And, like, I'm never going to pretend that I'm something I'm not, right? I'm not going to tell you guys, hey, I'm an expert in this when I don't know a damn thing about it. This is one of those sports that I watch like a casual observer. For many of you that are soccer fans, whoever you watch the games with where you're annoyed by them, that's me. I'm that guy watching the U.S. men's national team where I watched the penalty kick yesterday and I lose my mind and I'm jumping up and down with my son because I'm excited by it. And that doesn't happen for me a lot. Alex, I'm sure the same thing is true for you, where I don't have the same emotion watching sports that I once did. Mm-hmm. It just like,
it gets
knocked out of you when you do this for a living. That's not to say that I don't enjoy it. I love sports. I really enjoy the competition. Emotionally, though, I don't have the same investment that I once did. This is different. Watching this team, I've been swept up by it all. I watched that documentary on them, and I was able to see from HBO Max's documentary, this team, the biggest criticism of them over the last 4+ years, they didn't have heart. They didn't have belief. They didn't have guts. And so a lot of people looked at it and say, hey, it's golden generation, but do they give a crap? Like, do they actually care about going to a tournament like this and winning it for their country? And the answer yesterday was a definitive yes. They really dug deep for that one, man. You have a red card, which means you're playing down a man for, the last 30 minutes of that game? And for 20 of those minutes, you were up by 1 goal. It was, man, they were on the edge, and Bosnia could have easily come back in that thing. And it felt like watching Robert Bortuzzo when it was that, 3-on-1 situation a few years ago, where I'm like, man, I have so much appreciation for what that guy was able to do in that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's what yesterday felt like for me watching the U.S. men's national team. Alex, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. T-Bone's our resident soccer guy. For you, T-Bone, as somebody that does know this sport a little bit more and actually appreciates what it was from a tactical standpoint, what did we learn yesterday about the U.S. men's national team and their win against Bosnia?
Well, I think what you had mentioned about the criticism of the team of, do they have that grit? Do they have the heart to go out there and try and win for their country, right? Kind of the same thing that, I don't say we'd say it about the WBC, but that's more of a, do these guys really care about this tournament? But I think those were all fair criticisms of this golden age of the United States with Pulisic and all of those guys that are with him in this kind of age range. And I think yesterday showed it. Because I don't know that they win that game 4 years ago, especially when they get a red card that not only is a red card, because that is one thing, right, to go down a man, on a very questionable red card, I might add as well, to where I don't think that thing should have been a red. Yellow card, sure, but even seeing the replay, and they talked about it well on the broadcast of, this doesn't seem to fit the criteria of what should have been a red when you looked at it at game speed, and to be able to come back from that and not only defend well for the first 20 minutes, but then somehow just with a snap of the finger turn momentum, right? I mean, you have that foul that's called midfield. The Bosnia coach ends up getting a yellow card for his warning, for his tantrum. And then it was just all of a sudden they're like, all right, this is it, and we're going to take this thing and we're going to run with it. I mean, that was impressive. Now, is it Bosnia, which is not up there with a Belgium or a Croatia and those other top-tier teams? No, but it is certainly something to where I wasn't sure that they would be able to overcome that, and I don't think 4 years ago they would have. And we'll see if they're able to continue this momentum into their game on Monday when they play Belgium. But, man, right now I'm just here for the feels and ready to celebrate because that was awesome to see them be able to hold on to that.
By the way, I don't blame any of those coaches for throwing tantrums. That was a awful officiated game, and that red card was the one that kind of set me over the edge. I mean, look, I'm with you guys in the sense of I think I had as excitement compared to that World Cup game match last night watching USA as I did when USA and Canada happened in the Olympics in the winter. I was pumped for that game. And then as that game went on, I found myself getting closer and closer to the television, where at the end of it, I'm standing face to face with it. That's what that match was last night. And when the red card happened, you wanted to chuck something at the television. And that's what it felt like Team USA has kind of done in this World Cup. Because Katie, while I'm watching the Belgium game before, she goes, do you even like soccer? And I go, no, but I like the World Cup. And she goes, why? And I said, because it's the atmosphere. It's watching these fans get into it. And that Belgium game was so exciting that it just anticipated and built that up for the USA match. And so that's what it feels like USA has done. It's kind of drawn somebody who doesn't really like soccer into watching all of their matches and buying into those games.
I think some of it is it being hosted here in the United States.
Well, that's the fan reaction to it, too.
It feels like it could be a million miles away here in St. Louis because it's not hosted here. I mean, it might as well be, but having gone over to Kansas City a couple of weeks ago where they were hosting some of the games, it is amazing. Right, like the atmosphere, these countries that just like their fans just basically set up shop for a month in a different country, and for them to come to the United States and support them the way that they have, it feels like a massive college football game. Like the only thing I can compare it to is like if Ole Miss was playing against LSU in a playoff game in a neutral site. That's the closest thing that I can compare this to, is like just two huge fan bases that really give a crap. And they're going and they're like, it's an almost neutral site kind of a situation. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. And yesterday, Alex, I don't know if you got swept up to the point where you were singing along, but Country Roads after the game.
No, I don't sing to that song. That's a trash
Seeing
song.
Seeing the coach get out there, I'm like, this guy's not even American. He's Argentinian. And for him to really get swept up in it.
It's a trash song.
It was incredible, man.
You could have picked any other song.
You could feel the excitement. I think Christian Pulisic he smiled after the game. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
Not allowed, especially when they're throwing yellow and red cards out there. You think they'd be pissed.
Quick aside, they need more from him. That guy's got to step up.
Especially now.
And in the next game, their
the
best goal scorer.
The first half, though, I felt like he was everywhere around the net. He just couldn't put one in the net.
Correct. It's like a hitter in baseball that just is getting horrible batted ball luck.
The old Mark.
That's Pulisic right now.
The old baiter.
I understand it, and you guys know as a numbers nerd, eventually I think that thing's going to turn around for you. Well, this is not one of those things where you get to simulate it 1,000 times and eventually it will regress to the mean. Dude, you got to score. Like, Pulisic's got to put one in the back of the net eventually. They need that out of him, and T-Bone's right. Because of the red card, which was a horrific call, they're going to be without their best goal scorer in this next game, and this is going to be an even tougher test than what Bosnia was. Belgium's pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
And yesterday you saw it. They can be down 2-0 and score 3 goals in 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I watch it. As much as I've loved this USA, that is good. I don't know how they beat that team on that type of momentum. I mean, that Belgium is going to be rolling.
I would say the same thing about the U.S., though. If you want to talk about momentum, that's an unbelievable win for the U.S.
Absolutely. Holding on to a 1-0 lead down, man, though, when you're down by 2 with minutes to play? That one is going to be riding. Plus, Belgium was already a team that people were viewing as somewhat of a better team going into it.
Belgium looks old, and they are older. I mean, I think they said on the broadcast yesterday in that game that, by the way, Belgium is at the end of their golden age. This is why these World Cups are so important, because you basically get maybe 2, maybe 3 with the guys in their prime when they're very good, like De Bruyne. They look old, and I think if the U.S. plays with the speed that they played with last night when they would get in the attack, I think they win that game. I've changed my tone on that because Belgium continues to look old. And I thought that in the group stage, and they really showed it yesterday in the Senegal matchup. I think the U.S. can beat them, but they've got to play fast. And I don't know that it's all on Pulisic, because what I would say is I think the reason you've seen Belgium be able to take off like he has in this World Cup is because there's so much attention on Pulisic, because of the way he creates on the outside. So yes, he does need to play. If he can score, that's great. I think long as he continues to create, it puts the pressure on guys like Dest, Adams, Tillman, McKennie, those guys. And you saw Tillman come through with the goal yesterday on that free kick.
That was ridiculous.
Unbelievable shot. I think those are the guys that the pressure comes on, and I don't think their depth's that great. You know, now some people may disagree with me on that, but I think that Turkey game where they played and they decided not to they play guys on yellows, and Pulisic only came in the second half because of the calf injury. What that game showed to me is their depth is fine, but it's not great. And that's where you're going to start to see that emerge here as we get to the round of 16. Though Belgium's older, they've got good depth. And a lot of teams do once you get to that stage.
Do you think the U.S., and we can talk about this more as we get closer to the game, especially as we get into next week, but do you think they will change tactically Or will they just do what they've been doing? Will they play the same way against Belgium that they have been for the vast majority of this tournament, despite being without their best striker?
I think they're going to play about the same way. I think they'll probably even stick potentially to the same formation, and they'll just kind of replace him up top with, I'm trying to remember who it was that went into the game for Pulisic after that injury where he missed the Turkey game where he didn't start. I think they're going to stay about the same. I don't think they're going to change much tactically because even when he came out, you could see them with 10 men still playing very well. So I don't think they're going to change much. If anything, they might go to 2 strikers instead of 3, but I think they're going to stay with the same formation if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what this thing looks like. But they've got me. I'm captured by it. Yep. I'm captivated by it. This tournament's been unbelievable. And we've seen this. Like, anything can happen in this tournament. If Germany's already out, you know, if that can happen as quickly as it did, we'll see. I'll be rooting for Austria later today. I'll tell you that much. Spain.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. But also, who knows?
I've heard this slate of games today isn't that entertaining.
Portugal versus Croatia should be a lot of fun. Spain versus Austria. Hey, man, I didn't think yesterday's slate was going to be great.
Yesterday was boring. Am I right, guys?
I'll be interested to see if Austria can pull off yet another upset. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into Ask Us Anything. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get your questions in. But next, we've got some questions for former Anaheim Ducks assistant coach Craig Johnson. What does he believe Mason McTavish will bring to the St. Louis Blues? We'll ask Craig when he joins us next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell to the Braves yesterday 5-1. Rubber match of their 3-game set in Atlanta is tonight, 6:15 first pitch. Dustin May will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon. Kiley will be joined by Craig Johnson, former NHL forward, drafted by the St. Louis Blues, actually, in the early 1990s. Assistant coach with the Anaheim Ducks for a couple of seasons as well. He'll join us here on BK and Ferrario. He coached under Greg Cronin in 2023. He did coach Cam Fowler. He coached Masyn McTavish. So there are a lot of connections to the current St. Louis Blues, Alex, and I'm very curious to get his impression on some of them.
I believe, no, he missed Jim Montgomery by a year. I was wondering if he played with Jim Montgomery in St. Louis, but Monty
really?
He was the year after Monty, because Monty was 93-94 and Johnson's first year was 94-95. So missed him by a year, but I was like, oh, well, that's going to be the perfect connection that he played with Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to having him on the show here momentarily. Looks like he'll be able to join us on the YouTube stream. So if you want to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN STL is the place where you can go to do so. Again, a lot of connections between the current St. Louis Blues and the Anaheim Ducks that Craig Johnson was the assistant coach for.
Real quick news before we get to Greg.
Please.
Hockey-wise, Alex Ovechkin is coming back for one more year.
Really? Darren Drager said yesterday that it seemed like it was over.
Yeah, Tariq El-Bashir, who covers the Capitals, just announced he's coming back for his 22nd season, which totally makes sense because they revamped that roster, so Ovi gets one more shot at a cup.
Now going out to the Kiley and Thompson hotline, happy to be joined by Craig Johnson, former NHL forward and assistant coach with the Anaheim Ducks in 2022 and 2023. Craig, it's basically an Anaheim Ducks reunion lately here in St. Louis. Greg Cronin was the head coach out there. He's now an assistant in St. Louis. Masyn McTavish, you got to coach him. He's now one of the Blues centers. Cam Fowler was there.
Ross Johnston
was there. So it's a whole lot of your former players and coaches that are here in St. Louis. We appreciate the time. How you doing today, Craig?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing really well. So let's start with Masyn McTavish, the big move for the St. Louis Blues over the weekend. You got to coach him. What kind of a player are the Blues getting in Masyn McTavish?
Well, number one, he's a super human being. He's a great teammate. Guys love him as a teammate. As a coach, he was a blessing to coach too, because he always wanted to learn. So everything with him was he wanted to have video. He wanted to be told what he was doing, what he could do better. I looked at him at his first year he came in, and I think he had 43 points his first year, which was I think third amongst all rookies at that time. So he had a really good first year on a team that wasn't that good either as far as our record went. The second year he came in, he actually improved on his points per game, all that. I think he was hurt for a while at the end, but he ended up with like 42 points that year too. His face-off percentages went from like 42% his first year to like 50 his second year. So his dedication to his craft, to his face-offs, to getting better defensively, to his offensive play as far as shooting the puck, as far as puck protection, all those things are things that he loves to do. He's a rink rat. He's a guy that just loves to be on the ice. He'll be the last one off, and he plays the game the way it should be.
You know, Craig, when people see Masyn McTavish's name and they're like, maybe not the greatest defensively, the one thing that always pops up to me is those couple of years where he got to Anaheim, where you were coaching there. You mentioned they weren't the greatest team. How much pressure is on a young kid like Masyn McTavish, who steps into the league at 19 when you're a third overall pick, for a team that's trying to get back into a winning atmosphere?
Yeah, and that's the thing. He was drafted to be one of the young core players that were gonna, when the Ducks got better and stronger, he was one of the key pieces in that. And I look at what he had to go through. and he went through it with positivity. He was never negative. He never, our team stinks or anything like that. He was always one of those guys that he showed up. He wanted to play. He wanted to get better. He wanted to be part of the solution, and he's going to continue to get better. He's going to gain his confidence in the game. He's going to understand the D side of the game too. Monty's going to help him a lot, through that as well. And the system they play will be similar to what he played in Anaheim under Quenneville. So I expect to see continuous improvement through Masyn, and he's going to be a big time center for the Blues.
Craig, do you think he has the potential to be a second line center for a good team in the NHL? Do you think that's in the future for Masyn McTavish?
Yeah, I think he can do it. He can score. Number one, his shot is elite. And as he continues to get older and get stronger and kind of redefine his skating too, he's gonna play with more pace and more energy, and I can see him definitely being a top second line player.
Craig, you're recently removed from the coaching side of this game, so you know what the modern day NHL looks like right now. And one of the things with Masyn people have talked about, and I even think Pat Verbeek mentioned it in the offseason, was trying to get his foot speed up a little bit more. When it comes to that center position in today's game, how important is that foot speed of utilizing that, but also if you're a body build like McTavish, trying to find ways to insert that size and strength that you like to use?
Yeah, and that's the area. You don't necessarily have to be extremely fast, but you have to have change of speed. So he's very good at puck protecting by opening his hips, turning his back to the play, kind of we would call it a front foot, back foot protection. So all those things, he's really good in small areas. So that's his. He's good off the rush because he can make the slip passes. He can get through. He just has to keep developing that pace. And sometimes with guys like I look at certain guys in the NHL who maybe weren't the greatest skaters when they started out. They learn as they go along. They play with more pace, and the game just becomes easier for them.
Craig Johnson joining us here on 101 ESPN, former assistant coach with the Anaheim Ducks in 22 and 23, coached Masyn McTavish there. You also had the opportunity in one of those seasons, Craig, to be able to have Ross Johnston. It was really his first full season, first full opportunity at the NHL level. You guys got 68 games out of him in 2023. We've heard a lot about Ross Johnston and what he can bring, not only on the ice as an enforcer, but also in the room. That's something that the Blues have really talked a lot about over the last 24 hours. Can you give us some insight into what Johnston brought into the room in Anaheim with you guys?
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He's been around the league for a long time. He knows what it takes to win. He was on successful teams with the Islanders, and coming in, he's a guy that you don't. I saw him play with the Islanders when I was with LA. I did some of the player development with LA, and then I coached their minor league team, and we had watched the Islanders in the playoffs, and I was really impressed with his skill level too. He's big, he's tough, and I talked about Masyn with his puck protection. Ross is very similar, and that he's hard to get off pucks, and he's a guy. He's going to play some minutes for you, and he's going to be effective in those minutes. And I thought he had a really good year this year with Anaheim.
His style, Craig, it still works in the NHL, and it's still a necessity in the NHL, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. He gets respect from other opponents, and they're not going to take advantage of your team.
We're talking to Craig Johnson for just another couple of minutes here on 101 ESPN. All right, Craig, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, again, there's a lot of former Ducks that are now here in
just
St.
going
Louis. Greg Cronin, he was the head coach in 2023. You were an assistant on his staff. Can you tell us a little bit about what Blues fans should expect? He's not in the same role here. He's now going to be an assistant as opposed to the head guy in charge. What does Greg Cronin bring as a coach of a team?
He's very detailed in the game and how he studies it and looks at it. And it's not just the systems, but it's the habits that players have in the system. And he's very good with the fundamentals, teaching the forechecking to forwards, teaching the puck protection. He's a student of the game. He loves the game. He learns, and he continues to learn. And he's going to help the forwards out a lot. And it's like I talked about, those little details that sometimes get overlooked is where he really excels.
Do you feel like, Craig, he's going to mesh well with Jim Montgomery and the style that Jim Montgomery likes to coach?
Yeah, I've always loved Monty, how he coaches and the style he plays. So I went through with my son. My son was being recruited by Monty at Denver, and I was just to talk the game with him a little bit and just watch Denver play and how they did it, and then watching him in Boston and then in St. Louis too. I'm a big fan of Monty and the way he plays and the style.
Craig, before we get you out of here, I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about this while we have you on. Somebody on the text line brought up, you scored the first ever goal in the Kiel Center when it opened back in 1995. What are your fondest memories of that game, maybe? And then just overall, your time here in St. Louis?
Yeah, one of the things I remember, I scored it on Jamie Storr, and he's one of my best friends now. I played with him in LA for 7 years and overseas, so we laugh at it too. I kind of missed the puck or whatever. I think it hit me. I can't even remember that part, but it did go in, and I love St. Louis. It was a great place to play. The fans, the people, the players, the team we had. It was a lot of fun.
Well, and your name's always attached to Wayne Gretzky. So how often does that get told to you if you were the guy in the Wayne Gretzky package for St. Louis?
Yeah, one of the many. So it was, yeah, to look back on it now, it is a special memory, and there is that connection that will always be there. But as far as living up to Wayne Gretzky, there's not many people that could ever do that.
Well, you went on to have a great career with the LA Kings, though, so that's not too shabby yourself.
And Craig, as a Minnesota guy, the final connection that I wanted to get to with you, how much were you familiar with Jimmy Snuggerud's game prior to his arrival in St. Louis?
Yeah, I watched him. He played with my son at the University of Minnesota, so I got to watch him, especially when they went to the Final Four and they lost in the final game. But he number one, he shoots the puck. You guys know that, and everybody talks about it. But his shot is elite. His hockey sense too. His ability to get open, his ability to make plays in tight spaces, and another player that I think is going to continue to get better in this game.
Craig, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. Appreciate the insight into some of the former Ducks that you had the pleasure to coach. Yeah. Hopefully we'll talk with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Craig.
Take care, guys.
Craig Johnson, former NHL forward and assistant with the Anaheim Ducks in 22 and 23. Appreciate him giving us a little bit of insight into some of the players that the Blues have added over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if it changed anybody's opinion on Masyn McTavish, but it makes me feel a little bit more optimistic with him. I mean, the one thing that I have heard from multiple people now is how good of a guy he is. And what did we talk so much about over the last couple of days? Steen put a pretty big impact on locker room atmosphere and making sure that that's an area where you got a group of guys that are fighting for one purpose. And it seems like McTavish fits that very well. Now, the defensive side of it, you even heard Craig mention, like you're going to learn that as you continue to develop, but you're learning it in a different spot where there's not as much pressure. And that was the other thing that Craig mentioned is like when you're 19 and you're coming to a team where you're expected to fix the problems of a team that was deep-rooted problems, that's not an easy thing to accomplish. And when it doesn't go well, then things start to get a little bit more difficult.
Just as an aside, and it's related to that, Alex, something that goes unsaid in that interview is that Craig was willing to do the interview.
Totally.
And the reason that I bring that up is just like how the sausage is made. There are times where we will reach out to people when the Blues make a move or the Cardinals make a move or just in general, right? Whether it's coaches, executives, players. Sometimes guys don't want to talk about their former teammates or their former players. And the reason why is because it's the old adage of like, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all.
Correct.
And the fact that Craig Johnson was willing to come on with us today, and I mentioned that we were going to be talking primarily about Masyn McTavish as the biggest move that the Blues have made, that says he liked coaching Masyn McTavish. And it's not just him coming out and saying those things. It's the action of taking 15 minutes out of his day when he's got a lot going on right now out in California to do that. So I think that speaks really highly of what Mason McTavish is as a player and a guy inside of the locker room. We'll see if it works. I have no idea. But it is something that kind of goes unsaid with an interview like that.
And I think the Cronin thing is another impactful conversation piece. Like, I mean, he talked about how detail-oriented it is and how good of a guy he was. There was a narrative about Cronin that I even think Joey talked about when we had him on, that, like, it's just not the same narrative that he knows, but you only hear the negatives when negatives come out. For a guy like Cronin that's working with Jim Montgomery that is detail-oriented, it's something that I'll be fascinated to see what it looks like once those guys take the ice, because detail-oriented as an assistant coach with a head coach who feels the same way, that's how you improve your younger players like a McTavish.
That's Alex. He's T-Bone. I'm BK. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything, sports or otherwise, next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It is time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. Check them out online today at victorymenshealth.com. When you get there, you'll be able to put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then you can tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion today. I've seen real results from Victory Men's Health. I come in every day, I have more energy, I feel better, and it's because I went in, had that first appointment where they did all of that lab work for me, found out where all of my different levels were at, and then they put together a personalized plan for me to unlock my inner champion. And that means different things for different people. For me, it meant using their supplement shop to get all of those different levels right back up to where they need to be. For some, it means testosterone optimization. Maybe it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe you need some help with sexual health. All of that can be helped, and they can unlock your inner champion for you over at Victory Men's Health. They also have vitamin infusions. They have micronutrient testing, red light therapy, cardiovascular testing. It's all ready for you today over at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today online at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. By the way, coming up at 3 o'clock, you'll be able to hear Mason McTavish's press conference. He'll be available to the media. Mason McTavish, available at 3 o'clock. You'll hear that on the Fast Lane today. All right, from Cottleville Comeover, would it make sense for the Cardinals to target guys with term to buy for this year, but really just to start the offseason early? I don't have any targets in mind. Sorry, love the show. Yeah, I think that would make a ton of sense. This is one of those things where I think you could see something similar to what we saw from Chaim Bloom when he was in Boston, where he bought and sold at a trade deadline. It drove their fans crazy that year because they were coming off of an ALCS appearance. But they ended up getting Wilyer Abreu at that trade deadline, who became a core member of their team for like the next decade.
For Christian Vasquez, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like
that was the sell.
Yeah, a small little move like that with a catcher.
I think that's the ideal spot if you're Chaim Bloom to do for the Cardinals. It's just those don't come as easy because typically those guys cost a pretty penny.
Yeah. That's why I think, is it ideal? I would say yes. The thought process is right. It's just a matter of what's that cost. You know, like one name, I don't even think he would fit this because I don't think he's that good and worth the price tag. But look at like Reed Detmers, for example, or Jose Soriano with the LA Angels. Those are starting pitchers that are pretty good, that have some control, but they're going to cost a lot.
I will say this. There's nobody more familiar with the Cardinal system than John Mozeliak.
Does that scare you or make
Mike
you more
Trout?
comfortable?
I guess it depends. Do you think he was good at evaluating talent?
No.
I'm truly asking because if your answer is no.
The one thing I've always criticized him about was the pro talent evaluation factor
inside of their own system. I think he traded away some guys that maybe had some more talent than he was expecting.
Sandy Alcantara, Zach Gallen.
Fair. I wouldn't be as worried about it.
You know what he does well?
That was a
Identified
decade ago.
bullpen.
Like, I don't know. Did he give up anybody in the last 3-4 years that you look back on?
Randy
No, because
Arozarena
they did
doesn't
the
look very
opposite.
well.
Like where they were trading from their
Fair.
Randy
premium
Arozarena
talent.
doesn't look too well.
The reason that I
almost
bring
decade
that
ago at
up
this point,
is
too.
because
Jesus, I'm old.
if Mo is going, like, Mo might look for something that is familiar. We know how this works in the game. Like, the Cardinals have made trades with Boston for a reason. The relationships are there for Chaim Bloom, and the relationship is there with John Mozeliak. I just bring that up as it saying, like, maybe it'll be easier to get that kind of a deal done with Anaheim than it would have been 2 weeks ago.
I think you should go out there and find your center fielder of the future.
Mike Trout.
Hell yeah. What do the Cardinals do well? They go after Hall of Famers on the back end of their career.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
Embrace it. He's a Cardinal Hall of Famer.
Ask us anything. From the 636, if you guys had to take everything proposed by one side in the CBA negotiations thus far, would you take the players or the league's side?
Leagues, because I want a cap.
I'd probably take the players so far because the league is pushing everything like 6 steps further than what it needs to be. I understand that's the way negotiations go. I'm not blaming them for it, but so far I would take the player side. We'll see where all of this leads, though, because nobody's going to accept anything right now. We're 6 months away from anything really taking place.
Yeah, I think I'm with BK. I think I would side with the player side so far. I mean, I like the idea of a cap. I do think it would help the sport. Now, as we've seen in the NHL, that doesn't mean super teams can't be formed, but I do think it would help kind of bumping up teams like the Marlins and so on and so forth to spend. But I'm with you. I feel like the owners, every time I see their proposal, I'm like, all right, I like a cap, but like, I still don't like half of what you guys are proposing. Meanwhile, I loved what the PA proposed yesterday with their rule changes, potentially.
I don't care. I want a cap.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. From the 314, guys, what's your holiday weekend look like? You can find me kicking back with a few cold ones at the pool.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah,
That's
brother.
Alex's weekend, I would assume.
Well, no, it's not. I'm golfing tomorrow at 6 a.m. to beat the Heat.
Jesus.
I know. Well,
you're off tomorrow.
I don't want to golf at 9 o'clock. Guys, I'm up at 6 anyway, so it's really easy for me. And my wife decided that we are going to install a patio in our backyard, so I'm going to be using a tiller tomorrow. But Saturday, I will be by a pool all day with my girls.
Man. Good for you.
Yeah, well, you got to get tasks done when you have the availability.
There you go.
And then Sunday, I'm doing nothing. So Saturday, Sunday, nothing. Tomorrow is a busy day.
Sunday, I'll be traveling back here to the Lou.
Because you're going to be in Olney?
I'm going back home.
Hell yeah.
I'll be out on the lake drinking some cold ones and potentially, not 100% sure yet, but potentially playing golf as well over the weekend.
Ooh.
We go out to O'Fallon for the O'Fallon Fair. for 4th of July.
That sounds awful.
They get some surprisingly good concerts.
Oh, they do. It's just crowds, heat, fireworks. Hell
He
no.
didn't need to hear anything that was going on at the fair. He just heard, there's people there.
I think,
They had Smash Mouth a couple
yeah,
years
I think
ago.
Flow Rider performed a few years ago as well.
I don't know how or why or where this budget comes
I'll
from
tell you
for
how.
O'Fallon, Missouri, but
Money.
apparently they can get some pretty good artists. I don't know, honestly.
Oh, well, what the hell, man?
Let me look it up.
That sounds awful with heat, fireworks, and crowds. Hell no.
You're going to be on the water watching fireworks.
I'm either in a pool or I'm in air conditioning this weekend.
Russo and Co. is on the 3rd. 4th of July
Yeah,
is
big band, the Russo and Co.
Kansas.
Oh, I
Kansas
love
is playing on the main stage.
Oh,
They're
man,
still
will you,
together?
I don't know, apparently. For one day only.
will you
O'Fallon, Missouri.
film when they sing "Carry On My Wayward Son"?
Hell yeah.
That's one of my favorite
That's
songs.
like their only
karaoke
biggest
song
well-known
too, by the
isn't
way.
it? Oh, it is a karaoke song.
And then you do the air guitar when it happens.
Hell yes.
Oh yeah!
We gotta do a karaoke night.
Let's do it.
So we'll be going out there. Other than that, I don't know, man. Hanging out with our 3-year-old. It's his birthday weekend, so we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with him. 314-399-9646
Don't shoot fireworks off people. They're miserable and nobody likes them.
is the Air
You
Comfort
live by
Service text
Ferrario,
line.
Buy the biggest thing you can find.
Oh,
For
don't
Ask
worry.
Us Anything.
They do it every night for the last 2 months.
From the 314, would you rather have the U.S. men's national team win the World Cup or your favorite team win a title next season?
Favorite team win the title.
Who would you put as your
Blues.
favorite team? Blues.
I mean, that's selfishly just for me to be a part of that. I mean, to do pre and post as the main guy for a Stanley Cup run, that would be incredible. Plus the station, like we'd get to do the parade and the celebration and be a part of that.
That
so,
sounds awful.
oh my God, are you kidding me? That was the most fun I think I've ever had that year when I was with Camel
drunk
X.
hockey players who don't like interviews in general doing interviews.
Oh my God, they love interviews at that time. People were
'Cause they're
complaining.
hammered.
Yeah, people were complaining about Carolina's F-bombs at their parade, and I'm like, boy, you don't remember the Blues in 2019.
I would say U.S. won the World Cup because I've seen my two favorite teams win a championship in my lifetime. Now, don't get me wrong, it'd be cool to see again. And
Weren't you
especially,
like 11 when that happened for the Cardinals?
yeah, 11 last time they won it all, and then I would have been in college, freshman year in college when the Blues won it all. But I've seen that. Now, working it would be kind of cool, but
gosh.
I don't have the same fandom anymore now that I'm in the industry. So, the
But
World
your
Cup,
team
I
would probably be Illinois. That's
Or-
the team that you're a fan of.
Yeah, but I would still want to see the World Cup because, like,
Over
that's
Illinois?
Because I think Illinois is going to get there eventually. Like the U.S., like I don't know that they're ever going to win a World Cup in my lifetime, and if I can guarantee that, that would be awesome.
I think the World Cup would be fun for a day, and then, I'm like, okay, cool. Not the Blues winning it. It would just be an entire month.
I mean, the World Cup would be like watching that Miracle on Ice. That's how.
There would be documentaries that would
that's
be made
just
about
how
it.
unplausible it seems going.
It's
into
not to the
World
same
Cup.
Not the
degree.
Miracle on Ice, though.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I
not to the
agree
same
with that. I
level.
think that was bigger, but I'm trying to come up with a comparison to kind of show you what that would mean for America.
I truly don't know that there is a comparison. Because like the miracle thing, it was everything going on in the backdrop in terms of the two nations. It was college kids that are going up against the best players in the world. Like it's just such a difficult comparison, but this would be kind of almost like the dream team. But if those guys weren't at that
I was
level,
going to say, it can't be the dream team because, like, these guys aren't
I know that's
not the best in the
household
world.
names. Yeah.
But it's closer to the dream team than
Than
it
the
would be
Miracle,
to
yeah.
Miracle.
I agree.
But the dream team was expected to be quite good, and this team is not.
Yeah,
this team is like, this is where they were supposed to get. So far, if we're being real, they've accomplished nothing.
Yep.
So far, they have gotten to exactly where they have been the last 3 World Cups that they've been in. Next, like what they do on Monday with the game against Belgium, that's when we will determine if they've really accomplished something.
and the miracle-
And if they do, oh boy, this place is going to be ablaze. I mean, it's going to be crazy if they're able to get to that round of 8.
And that Miracle team, like, you have to be beating a juggernaut in the World Cup that just nobody believes that you can take down. And maybe France is viewed that way, but I mean, that Russian team in 1980 was like beating NHL All-Stars on a consistent basis.
It wouldn't be the same, but yeah, I mean, they would be huge underdogs because, I mean, there's just so many powers. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it last night, but they threw a graphic up on the screen that the U.S. beating Bosnia was the first team they had beaten from UEFA, which is European soccer. And I think the last 4 years, 5 years. Like they can beat some of the South American teams if they run into the right one. They've taken care of the African countries when they've played them. They've even taken care of the Asian countries. They run into a team from Europe and they just get shellacked. And Bosnia was the first one that they beat. Now, they were also the last one they beat previously too. So now, to BK's point, it comes down to what they do from here.
The U.S. men's national team is 27-1 to win the World Cup. To put that in, let's go like baseball terms, right? Baseball terms this year, teams that are similar to win the World Series: Chicago Cubs at 25-1, Toronto Blue Jays at 33-1. If you want to look like NFL terms, teams to win the Super Bowl that are in that range include the Chicago Bears, Jacksonville Jaguars, Dallas Cowboys. So like those teams would all be surprises, but we're not talking about the New Orleans Saints winning the Super Bowl. We're not talking about in Major League Baseball, for example, a team like the San Francisco Giants or the Athletics winning the World Series. So it's surprising, but not the craziest thing you've ever seen, which is kind of what the Miracle on Ice was. To answer the question, though, I have not given my answer yet. I think I would pick the U.S. men's national team. I think that's what I would pick. And like Mizzou would be my alternative of winning either a college basketball title or a college football title. I think I would just take the U.S. men's national team because of how much that would mean, honestly, just for soccer in America. And frankly, we could use a win right now. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Coming up next, I do want to talk a little bit about the Blues. They seem to have had two clear goals this offseason. What have we learned about Alex Steen and his goals for the Blues? We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Blues seem to have had two clear goals for this offseason, Alex, at least based upon their actions. And you know I'm a judge on their actions, not their words kind of guy.
Absolutely.
The two goals that I've been able to glean from their moves. One, get bigger and tougher to play against. I think that's incredibly clear. You've got Brandon Carlos, 6'5", 230. Mason McTavish, 6'1", 215. You bring in the Johnston kid, who's 6'4", 240.
Who's 4 years younger than me.
Touche. They added a lot of size, and they're trying to get tougher to play against.
Yep.
Hell, even the McMichael for Kyrou swap.
Yep. I thought that was the first time that I thought that they're trying to get a more net front, difficult to play against thought process because of how McMichael is described versus what Kyrou was.
So that's one. Two, they are adding a ton of depth to this team, and they're making it harder to make the opening night roster, and it seems pretty clear based upon Alexander Steen's A, moves, and B, comments yesterday. That was a goal of his, that he wanted to increase the level of competition to make this roster or to get into the lineup on a night-to-night basis. Nothing is handed to you. Everything is earned. And as a former player, I'm going to guess that's something that he wanted to have for this team. Like Stenberg. I think Stenberg's a good player. I don't know where his spot is on this roster right now.
It's in the Thunderbirds organization to start off.
And that is not something that I was anticipating going into the offseason. That was a bit of a surprise to me. So for me, those are my two biggest takeaways so far with the offseason. One, they got bigger and tougher to play against. And two, they added so much depth that now it's going to be harder for these young guys to get the bigger roles that they previously had, which is not inherently a bad thing, but it is a turn from what their previous goals / moves suggested.
Yeah, and I'd add one more onto that because both of those are exactly my thought process. The third one is a upgrade to the locker room atmosphere. And I know T-Bone hates this kind of conversation because it's locker room, but if you think of what McMichael has been described as, what McTavish, we just heard somebody mention. We talked to Carlo yesterday, and we've heard people talk about Ross Johnston. All four of those guys, people talk about like these are incredible individuals to put into the room. And I do believe there's some value from that. I think if I know Steen from watching him and covering him, he understands the importance of having a tight-knit locker room and a tight-knit group of guys. And that, to me, was an emphasis of him this offseason of making sure we're going to get guys that mesh with what we have already in that room. So I think the depth is probably the most important thing from all of this because, you know, we were going through this on the podcast earlier this morning, which will drop later on today. But I think of Berggren, Suter, I'm trying to remember all this, Stenberg, Walker, and then I know where you guys stand, but I'm going to put Carbonneau into this just because he's on that depth chart. Of those five guys that I just mentioned, only three of them are making the roster.
Yep.
So two of those guys, and I would say Stenberg's probably a guarantee to be in the minors because of the waivers eligibility, and more than likely Justin Carbonneau, and then you got to pick one more. You got to pick one more from that group because one's playing on the right wing and one's going to be an extra forward with the other one.
From Bill Marsh over on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Guys, I just don't see Jiricek, Otto Stenberg, Lindstein, and Carbonneau not making this team. I think Lindstein's making this team as currently constructed. The other three, I just don't see the path.
Yeah.
And it's possible. Like, if Otto Stenberg is amazing in training camp, he could win that third-line winger spot. He could take it from those names that you just mentioned. He could just beat them out. And if he does, God bless, here you go. Here's your playing time because you were better than all of the alternatives. That is very much in play. But as of today, kind of like what we talk about with the Cardinals, where they have to prove something different than what their previous expectations were, as of today, my guess is their plans are not for Otto Stenberg to be on the NHL roster on opening night. And for instead, the first injury that allows for every night playing time in the top 9, that's where Otto Stenberg gets an opportunity. Or maybe they bring him on along slowly and they say, hey, Torpo, you had a bad year last year. Let's be real. Torpo did have a bad season last year. And maybe it's a situation where they say, Stenberg, you fight for that job. We've got somebody with Ross Johnston that's going to be on one winger on that fourth line. Stenberg, if you can be harder to play against, despite having much less size than Toropchenko, you could win that role.
Yeah.
So I think there's just competition up and down this lineup compared to what it was a year ago. And it's going to be up to these young kids to go out there and grab those spots in the lineup. They're just not going to be given to them the way that they were.
Real quick, the other guy I forgot to mention is Dubé. And Dubé is going to fight for one of those spots as well. And like, I think the way they always look at
Jack
this
Finley,
is,
for example, like he's not guaranteed that fourth line center role.
And even a guy like Walker. I mean, Dubé could be fighting for Walker. Like, I always look at this as they like to have a guy who can fill in on the fourth line because I don't think Johnston's playing 82 games. So I think Walker and Dubé are probably fighting for that spot. And then I look at that third line right wing, and I think that's where a Dubé can fight for it, but Stenberg and Berggren and Suter are all fighting for that if it comes down to it. Now, you mentioned Lindstein. I don't know if Lindstein's a guarantee. Like, as it stands right now, I think he's fighting for probably...
Who's going to take that spot?
Probably Tucker in their eyes, of being a third-pair defenseman. But I also wonder if there's another move that comes.
That's what I was thinking.
Because if there's internal competition, man, Lindstein, remember Doug Armstrong said last year that, like, you know, it was kind of house money at the end of the season, and Lindstein played at that position, and I just don't know if they view Lindstein as, oh man, he looked like he's going to be great in that position. I think he's going to have to fight for those spots. And I think Tucker's in that competition, and that's where I say I just don't believe they're done there. And the one thing I will say with Steen having that competition mindset is last year what Jim Montgomery said about the roster was everybody felt too comfortable. They played so well against Winnipeg. They came into the season thinking like, oh, this will be a little bit easier. There really wasn't a lot of battling for roster spots. Mayu was basically a top six defenseman. You had Tucker playing in that position. Now it's, hey, you're not gifted anything. Like, if you want to be on this roster, McTavish, if you want the second line center role, you got to fight with Dvorsky. Dvorsky, you want to stay in the lineup, you got to fight with Dubé. Like, I do believe they're saying nobody should be comfortable with where they're at coming into the season.
Yeah, and the reason I find Lindstein as well kind of interesting is he kind of fits more on the smaller side, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know he's listed 6 foot, so he's got some size to him. He's not like, I think Torrey Krug was
like
under
me and
6
Alex's
foot.
size.
Yeah, and the theme of the offseason is, hey, we're going big. And now, you brought this up when we were talking about this off air yesterday. Now, he is kind of a Steen pick. He was someone that Steen had kind of scouted in that draft class, and if I'm not mistaken, was the one. Yeah, and I think he was kind of the one they reached on, if I remember correctly, from the way the draft analyst kind of viewed it.
Yeah.
But I find him interesting because of what you're saying. I don't know if they're done, and the only spot that I would say if they're not done, it would be his spot in the lineup that they circle and they say, theme of the offseason, we're going big. Lindstein doesn't really fit into that, and it's kind of a win-win on both sides, right? Of we're bringing in more size, and then we're not rushing him to the NHL.
6'4", 6'5", 6'2", 6'3", 6'6". That's 5 of your defensemen.
Yep.
And then 6 foot.
And the other thing that could happen here is
Good for him.
you might be
Added an
seeing the team say, hey, we want options. If we go up against a big and physical team, we want to be able to put Tyler Tucker into the lineup. We want to be able to put Ross Johnston into the lineup.
Right.
If we're going up against a team that's more of a, hey, we're going to play up and down the ice, you go up against Colorado, for example, well, maybe you don't have Ross Johnston in the lineup that day. And instead, you have Otto Stenberg on that right wing. Or you put Dylan Dubé into the lineup that game, right? Like, you have optionality if you're Jim Montgomery, which last year, that wasn't always the case. You know, you looked at his bench and you're like, okay, well, we know what the 12 are. we know what this is going to look like. And maybe this year they're just going to have guys in and out of the lineup more often. And maybe it's almost like baseball where, hey, once a week you get a guy off, right? You know, like Stenberg, maybe he's playing, if they have 3 games in a week, maybe he's playing 2 of them. You know, and maybe the same thing's true for Pavel Buchnevich, and they think they can get more out of him for 65 games than they would if he was to try to play 82. And the only guys that are going to be in there every single night are basically like your top 6 or 7 players, where it's Holloway, Thomas, Snuggie, McMichael, McTavish, Neighbors. Those guys are in there every night. Everybody else could have some days off.
I think the left-handed defenseman, and it's not just because of that Nikisha news that dropped yesterday of, you know, the Blues were interested, do they circle back? I just think the Lindstein one, to me, just, it's too easy of, hey, we're going to put this guy in this position with all of these guys and everything will be fine and dandy. The way that they have operated this offseason is we want depth. We want multiple guys. And I do like that opinion of the options against different teams. It's why I think when you look at Johnson, Walker, and Dubé, I think all of those guys are potential fourth-line options. Does one out-duel the other? And then Berggren and Pius Suter and Carbonneau and Stenberg are these guys fighting for that third-line spot because they do like to go heavier against teams like Minnesota or Nashville rather than when you need speed against Edmonton, you've got a different lineup that you can put out there.
What is Masyn Winn's future with the St. Louis Cardinals? It's something that was brought up by a guy that I respect immensely yesterday. And it was a surprising thing to see. As I thought more about it, I had two different reactions. One with my emotional brain, the other with my pragmatic brain. We'll get into both of them coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So, Alex, yesterday, I was perusing the internet.
Perusing? That's a big word.
All right, Bradford. We get it.
Easy over there.
Yeah, word of the day. Word of the day, toilet paper at the Kiley household.
Flexing your vocabulary strength, I see. Somebody went to the vocab gym today.
And you guys know I like Bernie Miklasz. Guy's been nothing but great to me in my entire career. Used to have me on as his Mizzou insider back when I was just the producer for the Kevin Wheeler show. There was no reason for him to give me that kind of acclaim, but he did it, and I am forever grateful for him.
I think you should probably use the word admire instead of love because, you know, you use fancy words, and we kind of make sure we flex that vocab.
Let's be honest, PK's had a big head ever since then.
Yeah, that's correct. He's got an award now from his Mizzou articles.
Bernie has been nothing but great to me, and I respect the hell out of his insight, especially into the St. Louis Cardinals, where he has real legit sources. And I don't think there was anybody that covered the Mike Schilt situation better than Bernie Miklasz did, where he had people telling him, hey, this is what's going on. This is why this happened. And we were all looking for information as to what exactly led to his dismissal. And Bernie kind of had the story like within the next week, where all of us were playing catch up at that point in time. So the reason I bring that up is because yesterday I saw this on Bernie Miklash's Twitter account. And it took me aback, and I audibly gasped as I saw what the tweet said. Here's Bernie Miklasz on Masyn Winn.
Maybe it's just who I'm in touch with, but all I've heard. So you got to extend his contract extension. Gold Glove shortstop, absolutely. Excellent defense, absolutely. Is he young? Absolutely. Is he a great competitor? Absolutely. He's a great guy in the clubhouse. Got leadership skills, absolutely. So I'm not saying you put Masyn Winn out there on the curb and somebody drives by a team and says, hey, we'll give you this for him. That's it. Take it or leave it. And Anaheim Bloom, okay, we'll do that. No, I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating, wonder what you would get for him. He plays hard, man. He competes hard. I get it. But that also leads to injuries. And it leads to a guy playing hurt a lot. Maybe at times he shouldn't be playing. He doesn't get a lot of days off. He wears down. The grind gets to him. So you have to ask at least a little bit. It's like, well, can he maintain this pace? Can he hold up under this kind of grind? What's he going to look like in 3 years?
So Bernie's basically saying, hey, Masyn Winn shouldn't be untouchable. He's a guy that if you get a good offer at the deadline for him, you should consider it. And that audio courtesy of the Bernie Show via STL Sports Central. Alex, my immediate reaction was, no, bleep you.
Yeah, because he's a superstar.
Screw you, man. You can't trade that guy. He is a star shortstop in this league. Yeah, his offense leaves a bit to be desired. There's no doubt about that. And T-Bone appears to be right on Masyn Winn's offense. Maybe there's not another step. I was hopeful that, hey, he could get back to the power that he showed as a rookie, where he had 30 doubles and 15 homers that year. I was hopeful that we could see more of that this season, and maybe last year was a blip on the radar when it came to his slug. Nope, it's gone the opposite direction, where the slug is worse this year than it was last year, and it's down about 85 points from where it was as a rookie. That's real, that's tangible, that's significant. But I still look at it and say this team's identity is in part wrapped into its defense. And a lot of that identity is wrapped into Masyn Winn being excellent, not good, excellent defensively as a shortstop, arguably the best defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball. And when you have that, and he's close to a league average hitter, you don't give that up. That is worth its weight in gold when it comes to his rookie entry-level deal. And you've still got a few years left on that deal. He's not getting expensive for a little while. Like, this is a guy you build around. This is not a guy you trade. And so that was my visceral, emotional reaction to this. And I was a little angry.
We get it, buddy.
And then I sat there and I thought about it for a little while. And I thought about what you could get for Masyn Winn. And I thought about how, all right, if this team disagrees with me in my assessment of them and they say, we're not a contender, we're sticking with a long-term plan, we want to be a contender in 2028, we want to be a World Series contender in 2028, man, what kind of pitching could you get for Masyn Winn? What would that look like? What kind of prospect pedigree could you get for him? Because we've heard some of the conversations about, hey, if C.J. Abrams was made available, what could you get? There's never shortstops that are made available in Major League Baseball. It just doesn't happen, especially young guys like this. I mean, you never see this guy traded at the deadline. The last time that I can think of anything similar to this would be like when we saw Willy Adames traded to the Milwaukee Brewers because they had Wander Franco coming up with the Tampa Bay Rays system, and that was a move that, hey, we've got this extra thing, we'll go ahead and trade him. But he was, I think, had like 2 years left of club control at that point in time, so that's not even the same, and he was older at that point. If they could get an absolute haul for Masyn Winn, Alex, I would be mad about it. I would be annoyed by it. It would be less fun to watch the Cardinals because of it. But purely my pragmatic side of my brain would look at it and say, I get it. I understand why you would make that move. Because you have a potential internal replacement at shortstop with J.J. Weatherholtz. You can find second baseman. Like, you could just start Brian Torres at second base, and he'd probably be fine. Or you could look down into your minor league system and maybe it's Thomas Saggese if you believe in him. Or maybe it's Jesus Baez who's making his way through the system right now. Or maybe you find something else, right? I don't know what the answer would be at that position. Maybe you sign somebody for that spot, but you can find second baseman. And maybe you just believe that that pitching is worth it. Or maybe you trade Masyn Winn and you get a future second baseman in return. I don't know. But pragmatically, I do understand where this would potentially come from. What is your response when you hear something like that from Bernie, who's super plugged in with the St. Louis Cardinals?
Well, I think, first of all, anything and everything should be on the table for a team that's trying to improve their long-term picture. Like, you have to be open to every option that becomes available to you of, can I improve this team and does it make me better for the long term versus the short term? So I totally get the Masyn Winn conversation. I can get if people bring up, the Alec Burleson name or the Lars Nootbaar name, but you got to, the return has to be worth the squeeze of what you're doing here. When you're talking about this with Masyn Winn, in my head, I'm thinking, man, are you going to get a massive haul for Masyn Winn? And
you have to, or you can't trade him.
Well, I understand that, but I just don't know if the offense brings back the return that would justify you trading Masyn Winn.
He would be interesting. Now, it's not a great, I don't know if it's a great comp because he had much more control and he was a little bit older in the pre-art. But look at what Boston gave up for Caleb Durbin. Durbin was more of a defensive first guy, not so much known for his offense, and they gave up Kyle Harrison to the Milwaukee Brewers, a really good lefty that's going to be an all-star potentially.
And was considered a top 25-ish prospect in the sport a couple of years ago.
A little bit less than that because Wynn's got less control than him.
I disagree. I think you get more than that for Masyn Winn because of the position.
I don't know.
Durbin's a second baseman.
Well, Durbin has flexibility. Durbin's a utility guy as well.
Though.
No, that's fair. But you also got to remember there's a little bit less control with Winn as well. And offense is clearly, I don't know if it's fair to say it's on the decline,
24
but it's
instead
down.
of 26. I think you get more for Masyn Winn than what they got for Caleb
I think
Durbin.
best you get about Harrison. I think that's the best case scenario. But I think that's what you're looking at, Alex. Just because the thing that popped to my mind.
Because I was thinking, when you mentioned C.J. Abrams, it feels like, and C.J. Abrams is popping off offensively this season at least. Yes. So that's where the return is a little bit higher for a guy like that. So that's the part that I just don't know, because I don't know what the league and teams value in terms of defensive shortstop, because I think we're seeing now the offense just isn't anything that gets you to that level where it's like, oh man, this is incredible. But that's why my response to what you're saying is absolutely. That's why I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Absolutely what?
Absolutely, I would investigate trading him, because there's no scenario right now, if I'm the Cardinals, with the exception of Weatherholt and Walker and a couple of your pitchers in your pipeline, I'm saying no to, because I don't know what my team looks like right now. And I think the biggest thing for this team right now is finding what the picture of what you're trying to become in the future. Yes, you're defensive minded, but you got to realistically figure out what those timelines match up with. And if Masyn Winn's somebody that in the organization you feel is injury prone, plays an awful lot, he's a hard goer, but he just doesn't have the bat, then yeah, if somebody's going to give up a Kyle Harrison-esque to you, you have to consider that, because that's smarter for your future.
From the 801, BK, didn't you have the same thoughts about Robert Thomas while his name was circling around the trade deadline? No, I was adamant. I would not trade Robert Thomas. I had the thoughts about
Robert Thomas, but that was if you're going into a rebuild.
Yeah, I would not have traded Robert Thomas. He's 26 years old. He's under club control for years to come, and he's shown an ability to get up to a point-per-game player, if not better, with great defense. You just don't trade that guy. If you trade that guy, you're talking about a rebuild for the next 5 years.
And that's
if you're
where
doing
I was
that,
listening.
Then, what's the point of any of this, really? So, yeah, no, I was fully out on trading Robert Thomas. I view that as quite different. That would be the equivalent of the Cardinals.
Weatherholt or Walker?
Yeah, Weatherholt would probably be that guy for me, where you just don't trade him. If you're trading him, what's the point of this? Now you're just becoming Major League Baseball's farm system. Mm-hmm. So you're just consistently going to do the, crop turning through the system. I don't see the point of that. With Winn, I can at least understand the discussion. I get how you could arrive at the place where you say the best thing for us organizationally, even if not for this team, organizationally, is to get what the return could be for Masyn Winn. And I disagree with T-Bone. I think you could get a lot for Masyn Winn. What Caleb Durbin got, Caleb Durbin isn't in the same stratosphere as Masyn Winn in terms of how he's viewed around the game. I think most people viewed the return for Caleb Durbin and said, you gave up that for Caleb Durbin? because Caleb Durbin didn't have the same kind of pedigree as Winn. Winn was a legit prospect in Major League Baseball, guys. I think we sometimes forget about that because he was coming through the system at the same time as like Jordan Walker.
I just think teams value offense so much, and his offense has been a little bit of he just doesn't have
They
that.
also really value defense at that position. Like if there is any position where it's valued, it's that one. And he is not just good at it, he is special defensively. He was a part of the futures game. He was a top 40 prospect in Major League Baseball consensus-wise from all of the different publications. This was a big-time prospect, man, and he's 24. And maybe another team views it as like, yeah, Alex, you need more offense. Okay, well, maybe they view it as we could get that out of him. We could get him to where he was 2 years ago when he hit 15 homers for the St. Louis Cardinals in 150 games. And they view it as he could be a 5-win player for us at a premium position on a cheap contract for the next 3 to 4 years. If you view it that way as a contender and you need a shortstop, man, I can't overstate how valuable that is. And if the Cardinals say, no, he's not that guy, he's what he's been the last year and a half, well, then you've got a potential deal to be made there. Especially if you're a team that has, you know, some legit prospects capital to give in your minor league system. What would the Dodgers give up for this, for example? Like, would they be willing to talk about some of their young pitching to acquire a player like a Masyn Winn to become a consistent shortstop for them, a position that they have really struggled to fill over the last couple of seasons since moving on from Trey Turner? I don't know. But they've got the kind of pitching pedigree in their pipeline right now, the depth in their system to make a deal like this.
And I mean, I'm open to listening to it because I don't think he's getting back to what he was 2 years ago, right? I think the jury's out that he's a Gold Glove shortstop that is more of a slap hitter that fits the bottom of the order. There is value in that, right? I agree with that, and I'm not trying to say otherwise. He is a good baseball player at the major league level. But the thing that I would say is I value defense a little bit less. And the thing that I would say is if someone's going to pay you that astronomical value that BK is talking about, yeah, I'm pulling that move. You know why? I've got his replacement at the big leagues right now in J.J. Weatherholt that can play shortstop. You know, this isn't a look through their system and see what they have. No. Weatherholt could probably be that. Can he be 80% defensively, what Masyn Winn is, while also being a little bit better offensively? And that's how you kind of equal this out as to what you do. And second base, as BK said, is a less premier position. I can either have someone else in the system kind of develop into that position. You mentioned Jesus Baez. Maybe they eventually move him over to second base to play that position, kind of like how they moved Weatherholt off of short to play second. Or they can just go to the market and find a second baseman, right? Those guys typically aren't super expensive. So I would be open to it. I would be very open-minded to that move. And I also wonder what that would mean for other people on the roster as well. Like, I wonder who else they would be willing to listen to. I don't know that it wouldn't be the same value at all, but I wonder if then they would say, hey, we're open to listening to an Alec Burleson, for example, right? Because I think the guys that Alex said that are kind of the untouchables, it's Walker, it's Weatherholt, maybe Herrera, and then guys that are in your pipeline. I don't think Burleson would be viewed as an untouchable. And if you're going to listen on Winn, I would think you have to listen at least on Burley as well.
Yeah.
The YouTube chat says, guys, Winn and JJ up the middle is about as good as it gets. This talk is nonsense. Maybe. I agree with you. And again, that was my immediate reaction is, this is ridiculous. How could you possibly even consider trading your franchise shortstop when he's 24 years old, hopefully entering the prime of his career, and he's cheap? He's cost controlled. That's nuts. And I thought about it more. And like, what would you rather have? Winn and Weatherholt up the middle, or Weatherholt and let's call it Torres up the middle with like River Ryan on the mound, right? Because that's the kind of thing that we could talk about. Or Emmett Sheehan is now suddenly a member of the St. Louis Cardinals rotation. Justin Robleski is
I know who that is.
a member of the St. Louis Cardinals rotation. What? You're out on Robleski?
I don't trust that guy's going to profile this well moving forward.
Okay.
That guy's a junk throwing lefty.
I like junk throwing lefties.
Yeah, he's good. He's pretty good. Like that. What? Even if you're out on him, like maybe it's a different team. What
about the guy from Seattle? Let's go get that guy. I don't know. They got like 5 pitchers.
I don't think that they would necessarily trade for a shortstop, but sure. Like one of these teams that wants to get super aggressive with a pipeline that includes a ton of young pitching talent. That is the kind of team that could look at the Cardinals and say, that's our guy. We need that with our organization. Maybe the Yankees look at it and say, we need that. We're done with our situation. We've been going through a revolving door of shortstops for years. We don't think that the next step is coming for any of our guys internally. We want Masyn Winn. That it gets interesting. And it's a conversation I didn't expect to buy into, but it is something that as I thought a little bit more about it, I understand how you get yourself there. I would not advocate for it. If I was in the room, I would say let's not trade Masyn Winn. But I would understand the alternative. And that's really important in these kinds of conversations, is being open to all of the possibilities, especially when you're in the situation that the Cardinals are in right now. Coming up next, one of our favorite hockey guests in the world is Jeff Marek. He's the host of The Sheet. He's going to join us to discuss what the Blues have done so far this offseason and what he thinks comes next. We'll talk about that with Jeff Marek next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Braves yesterday 5-1. The rubber match of their three-game set in Atlanta is tonight. 6:15 will be first pitch. Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Before we get to Jeff Marek, we've got some news for the Cardinals. Cooper Jerpy has officially been activated from the injured list. It's been 2 years since Jerpy last threw a pitch when he was not on the injured list for the St. Louis Cardinals. He has officially been activated from the 60-day IL. He's been working his way back. He has been activated by the AA affiliate for the St. Louis Cardinals. So Cooper Jerpy is officially back in the mix. Full disclosure, we did have this conversation a little earlier today with Jeff Marek. He was only available this morning. Alex was at the time recording the Last Minute Blues podcast. So in this conversation, you will not hear from Alex. You will, however, hear from Jeff Marek, who's one of the best in the business. He's the host of The Sheet. You can hear him weekdays at noon on the Daily Faceoff, and he's on Twitter at Jeff Marek. We always enjoy our conversations with him, and we begin today by talking about what the Blues have done so far this offseason.
So I think what the Blues right now are in the process of is getting everybody settled in the right position. And mainly they've done it by way of trade. We saw yesterday, through free agency as well a little bit. By the way, just as an aside so we can get it out of the way, I love the Ross Johnston signing, mainly because, as you and your listeners all know, going back to the St. Louis Blues inception in 1967, this was always a team and has always been a city that likes toughness, whether it's the Plaguers, whether it's Noel Picard, whether it's Gassoff, going all the way through to Kelly Chase and Tony Twist. Like, this is an organization that's always appreciated toughness. So I've always associated St. Louis with being a tough team. But I think when you look at what St. Louis has done here is, like, they're trying to get people slotted in their proper positions. By having, both Connor McMichael and Mason McTavish in the lineup, it gives you, two options at two positions, right? Both can play center, both can play wing. It allows Pius Suter to play in a properly slotted position, same as Dalibor Dvorsky. We all expect, long-term Dvorsky is going to be the second-line center on this team. I think what we're looking at here is what the two general managers, I suppose you have to say, are doing here is making sure that everyone's slotted properly. And maybe the most important one of all here is moving Logan Mailloux down a little bit by bringing in Brandon Carlo. Slot him in your second pairing on the blue line. We saw Logan Mailloux, a couple of different versions of Logan Mailloux last season. Maybe this gives them an opportunity just to settle into a third pairing role before advancing up.
Jeff, they've gotten a lot bigger. You mentioned Ross Johnston, but it's not just him. It's McTavish. It's Brandon Carlo. All those guys, I think you average it out. It's like 6'4", 230 pounds on average between the three of them. What do you make of that? That seems to be one of the early things that I've noticed about the Alexander Steen additions that he's made to this roster.
It's a great point, but it's not just St. Louis. You look at what the Washington Capitals have done. You look at what a lot of teams here have done. And, whether you want to call this the Florida Panthers effect, which, even had an effect on the Carolina Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup as well, because they toughened up and they got bigger as well. Does it not seem to you, and again, it's not just St. Louis, I think this is a league-wide phenomenon, that size and toughness are back? We're in an era right now in the NHL where everybody can skate, everybody can handle the puck, everybody can shoot. And so now more so than ever, managers are saying to their scouting departments, both pro and amateur, find me guys that can give us something else. Like, what's that extra ingredient that we don't have on this team? And lately, it's been find me size and find me toughness. And that seems to be what a lot of GMs are looking for out of their teams right now. Go look at what the Philadelphia Flyers are doing again. Last year was all size. This year, Mikhail Sokolovsky, or Maxim Sokolovsky, they take in the first round from the London Knights, 6'7". Beginning of the year, there was a thought that this guy wasn't going to be anywhere near the first round. Had a great second half of the season. He put up, I think, 5 points from the back end all season long, and that's it. But it doesn't matter because the Flyers are after big guys that can move and are mean and are tough. So this seems to be sort of a league-wide phenomenon right now. And I love it because I love that brand of hockey.
Jeff, you mentioned GM's looking for something different, and I'm curious your thoughts on Alexander Steen and his first kind of actions as GM of the Blues, because though it was technically Army as GM before the draft, you reported they were in the Jason Robertson sweepstakes, or at least checked in before he said no interest in St. Louis. And Steen does a buyout.
They were in. They're definitely in. Absolutely. I want to make sure all you listeners understand that. Seattle was in. There was one team in the Eastern Conference that was in, and the St. Louis Blues were in. Those three I can tell you for sure.
Jeff, as a quick follow-up on that, what does that mean? When you say they were in, what does that look like from your understanding?
They did make an offer to the Dallas Stars for Jason Robertson. They did. Now, I'm not sure whether it was Robertson that turned down the idea of an extension. I'm not sure whether that was Dallas turning down the offer out of hand, although it really does seem sympathetic with what Seattle was offering. It sounds like a combination of a couple of first-round picks and a prospect, or maybe even 3 first-rounders, but something in that area is what St. Louis was offering. Look, it shouldn't surprise anybody. I would imagine Chicago would be in. I would imagine Detroit would be in. Goals are expensive. Goals are hard to come by. And if you have the luxury of having a player on your roster that can score a quote-unquote easy goal, and you don't have to grind for every single goal, which you ask any hockey player, that can really take it out of you and take it out of the bench. And you have someone like Jason Robertson who can just sort of, get around the net and snap in 2 really quickly. It takes a lot of pressure off of your team, so it should come as no surprise to see the St. Louis Blues very, very much in the mix for Jason Robertson.
So what do you make of Steen going big game fishing then for Jason Robertson? And then the first official move that he did as GM was he buys out Jonathan Drew, and a thing Armstrong had not done in his 2-decade run here as GM of the St. Louis Blues. What do you make of what Alexander Steen's doing, as he's seeming to be super aggressive early on in his tenure?
I think that I always try to put myself in people's position, and I'm trying to think to myself, okay, so I'm Alexander Steen. I've been there for a couple of seasons now, and I've been sort of, learning at the feet of the master here. Doug Armstrong is certainly one of the legends in the game, in the industry. And all the while you're thinking, man, wait till I get the keys to the car. Wait till I get the keys to the car. Wait till I get the keys to the car. And I don't think that Steen wants to do anything frivolous just to make a big, bold move. He's a second-generation hockey player. His dad was a wonderful player with the Winnipeg Jets, who I used to love watching. And he's grown up around hockey his entire life. He is one of the definitions of a hockey lifer. So I don't think he goes into anything reckless or goes into anything blind. But I kind of find that, this is sort of, indicative of, a manager who's thought a lot about what he would do when he got his hooks into the team. So I don't think anyone should be surprised that, what may have been a no-fly zone for Doug Armstrong is just fine here with Alexander Steen.
We're talking to Jeff Marek here on 101 ESPN. You can see all of his great work over on the Daily Faceoff. That's where he's the host of The Sheet, weekdays at noon. Jeff, as we project forward now, and you look at what the rest of the offseason is going to be for the St. Louis Blues, do you still see any business to be done? I know there's been some speculation about Nikishin. What do you think is next for the Blues?
I think right now everybody, after that initial surge on day one, everyone takes at least a little bit of a step back and says, okay, so let's see what everybody looks like. Let's see what all the different teams need. Let's see where the holes are. Let's see where the vacancies are. Let's see who's coming in light on a deal on July 1st, who may come in heavier on July 2nd. I think right now everyone sort of takes a little bit of a step back, assesses the marketplace, and then starts to move. Either it's going to be by addition or by subtraction, maybe sometimes at the same thing at the exact same time, both adding and subtracting. But I don't see the St. Louis Blues sitting on their hands here and saying, well, we got all of our work done before July 1st, and on July 1st, we'll see you at training camp, boys. I think this is still going to be an aggressive organization.
Do you think any team in the West has improved more than the St. Louis Blues so far, Jeff?
I do think the Edmonton Oilers have improved. I think the San Jose Sharks have improved. Yet to be seen how much they've improved by. I would look at the West, and I would say that certainly St. Louis is one of the teams that has done the most. Not Seattle, certainly not Los Angeles. Anaheim, I still want to see them round out their blue line. Colorado has subtracted, although I think the Schwartz move could be an interesting one. I'll tell you, St. Louis is right up there, but I will reserve final judgment until we see what Dallas can do. And I think everybody is assuming that by letting go of Maverick Bourque and attaching Ilya Lyubushkin to the deal, to the Nashville Predators for second and third draft pick, that's the Dallas Stars freeing up money for Jason Robertson, give him what he wants, give him the $14 million. I'm not so sure about that. And I'm also not so sure that Dallas is out of the Werenski situation, or out of the Werenski sweepstakes here. I think that one caught Werenski's camp by surprise, and their initial reaction was just, no, we're not doing that right now. One of the things that we didn't see in those dueling statements yesterday from Don Waddell and Zach Werenski in Columbus was that Werenski is planning to stay once his contract has expired. I think the first thing they needed to do was calm down the marketplace and send a message to the marketplace for players that Werenski is staying. But I still don't think that if the right offer comes along for Zach Werenski, that he's not gone. I think Don Waddell is very much looking out for the future of the Blue Jackets organization. And I still do think that Dallas is in that sweepstakes, as I think Dallas are still in the hunt for Dylan Larkin. So St. Louis certainly one of the top teams that has improved. Again, I'll throw Edmonton in that mix too, but I'll reserve final judgment until we see what Jim Rowe can come up with here.
Jeff, we'll get you out of here on this. Ross Johnston was an interesting signing, a surprising one yesterday. I was most surprised by the 3-year term on that deal. What was your reaction other than just, I love it because St. Louis likes tough guys? But beyond that, what did you think about the contract and the signing of that player specifically for the Blues?
When you have a tough guy, you want them to feel comfortable. The last thing you want your tough guy is to feel nervous about where he's going to be. I've always wondered about this one. You know, offering tough players 1-year contracts and keeping them on edge. If you're going to get the best out of your tough guy, he's got to be of the belief and the knowledge that he is staying with that team, that there is some security. He is doing this for a reason. He's not doing this as an audition for another job in another market. Trading tough guys is hard because tough guys know when you get to a new city, you can't just surf on the reputation because everyone's seen you do it before. You have to do it all over again. And I think that one of the best things you can do for players like Ross Johnston is to provide them with the security and that sort of that comfort blanket of knowing that he's going to be here for more than just one season. I love the fact that they extended him. And I love the fact, by the way, that they gave him a 3-year deal. I really do. I think it's a smart move.
Jeff Marek is the host of The Sheet weekdays at noon on the Daily Faceoff. We always enjoy our conversations with him here on BK and Ferrario. Jeff, always enjoy the time. We'll talk with you again soon, man.
Still one of the most fascinating markets in the NHL, St. Louis. Thanks, boys.
Our last segment kind of applies to what I want to talk about here, Alex. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Do you guys listen to Bill Simmons at all? It's okay if you don't. I'm just curious.
A little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
Never listened to Bill Simmons.
Okay. I figured that was probably... I think Bill Simmons
He's more NBA, right?
Yeah. Bill Simmons is more our age, Alex, and probably a little bit older.
He was SportsCenter, wasn't he?
He was ESPN.
Yes, I would say I thought maybe he wasn't SportsCenter, but I thought I remember seeing him on ESPN.
Originally, he was ESPN Page 2. You probably don't even know what that is, T-Bone.
What the hell is that?
T-Bone has no idea.
Do you mean ESPN 2?
No, ESPN Page 2. It was part of their website. It was this thing called ESPN.com where they used to have not just like your typical blog post, but they used to have like long form written journalism.
You had to go www.ESPN Page 2.
I don't remember that at all.
So they used to have that. He was a part of it, and it was awesome. I mean, one of my favorite writers growing up. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is because he did a podcast today. A lot of people have been waiting for it to react to the Jaylen Brown trade.
Oh, yeah.
He's a huge Celtics fan. That's his team.
Big Boston guy.
Exactly. And he went on his podcast today and said, I was in the middle of a colonoscopy yesterday when this happened.
Great start to a story.
And he said, I had a camera up my ass when it happened. And afterwards, I had Paul George as part of my team. He said, I thought I died. And that was the only way that I could make sense of this trade. The reason I bring this up, what's the trade for you that you felt that way about, Alex? Where you saw it and you were like, there's no way this possibly happened for your team. That felt that way.
Immediately, Yori Laterra. Immediately.
But that was in a good way, right?
Well, yeah, but it was a no freaking way they just did this. If we're going in a bad way, I don't know if it was a trade.
Is there one that you had a visceral reaction to where you were like,
I know what it was. Yeah, Pronger. And I knew why they did it, because they were selling the team and they needed to cut as much money as possible. But when I saw that they traded Pronger for Eric Brewer, I was like, you got to be bleeping kidding me. I was 14 at the time, so like I was pissed. But like that was the one that I was viscerally like, I hate this team. And then I got better next year.
I'm trying to think. I don't know that I can think of a trade that has...
Were you really mad about Colby Rasmus going at the deadline?
No, not at all.
Signing Sam Brad or drafting Sam Bradford?
I remember having a reaction when they traded Bradford for
Austin
Foles,
draft.
but I don't think it was anything that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. Oh, Austin, when they picked him, was something.
Greg Robinson?
No, I don't... I can't think of a trade that... The thing that would come to me most to think of that isn't a trade. It was when the Cardinals fired Mike Schilt, where they were just in the playoffs and they fired him. And I remember being in studio and you guys were at Centene and I'm going, what the hell just happened? They just fired Mike Schilt, who was manager of the year a year ago. Now, that was before we had more information, but in the moment, that was my reaction.
Mine was the Tyreek Hill trade.
God, yeah, we were live for that one.
Yeah, I was so mad, man. I was seething. I can't remember another trade quite that level. When I was younger, though, watching it through a kid's eyes, when the Royals traded Jermaine Dye, Johnny Damon, Carlos Beltran, that outfield's different times, but all of them, those were my favorite players.
What a terrible offseason if you traded all three of them at once.
I mean, they all went on to win a World Series.
Yeah. Did they
all of them?
Jermaine Dye...
With the White Sox.
Yeah, no, not a Hall of Famer, though, right?
No, but a Hall of very good.
I was going to say, because Damon and Beltran were...
a solid player.
Jermaine Dye was great.
I loved Jermaine Dye.
He was my favorite player.
This is what tough. My whole lifetime, my teams haven't really been sellers.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I grew up with the Cardinals, for example, like, I barely remember the 06 World Series, but 23 was a hell of a shock to me when they were that bad. The Blues, they were exiting the rebuild, right?
Yeah,
like,
you
when I was
11,
younger,
12 when Hitch came in.
Yeah, I can remember my dad taking me to some games when they were rebuilding, but I don't think I knew at the time how bad they really were. Yeah. I always remember, like, them being in the playoffs. Like, it's just never been a part of my life.
Cardinals and Blues are weird for me because Cardinals, like, what I remember is I remember first the McGuire home run chase, which is like all Cardinals, and then you get into Pujols, and it was that way until 23. Blues, I got into when they were Cup contenders, President's Trophy. Then the Pronger happened when I'm deep into the Blues, and then they go into their come grow with us era, which, God, that sucked. And then you get the Hitch again. So it's like that's the one that I've gone roller coaster with from like the inception of being a Blues fan.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Not a trade, but when Mizzou's starting running back and Heisman contender was shot in the offseason.
Yeah, that was rough.
That one immediately comes to mind.
That's
Or
recently.
Michael Porter Jr.
Oh,
getting into an exhibition game and leaving and never playing a meaningful game healthy for my Missouri Tigers
Not
after
until the
being the
tournament.
number one prospect in the country. That one immediately comes to mind as well. Or Henry Josie blowing out his knee
the BKO.
and missing the entire next season. That one comes to mind for me. Or James Franklin in the midst of Missouri being a pretty darn good team in the early 2010s. His injury-riddled seasons. That one comes to mind for me. So there's been a few.
I think you should probably find another team, big boy.
Illinois losing to Loyola Chicago was up there for me.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought they could have won it all that year.
Mizzou losing to Norfolk. That was fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up
What about
next.
Princeton?
Oh, speaking of that team, by the way, Lawrence Bowers tore his ACL that summer. Otherwise, he would have been a part of that team that ended up
won.
losing to Norfolk State.
they would have
and
won.
they legitimately could have gone to the Final Four that year with
Oh, yeah.
Lawrence Bowers on the team. All right, BT coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Brad Thompson joins us now here via the Callier and Thompson
Calories.
hotline. I'm in vacation mode. I'm sure BT is as well, as this is his second
not on
appearance
vacation
on
yet.
the station today. BT, what's good, man? How you doing?
I am doing great. How you guys doing, man? You vacation mode's okay, right? It's go time. You guys are off tomorrow. Great weekend. Are you guys big firework people?
I like the fireworks. My son used to like the fireworks, and then over the last few months, he's gotten into a fear phase. So now the noise scares him.
I live in Jefferson
Okay.
County, BT, so fireworks have been going off since probably November of 2025. So I despise everything that has to do with fireworks.
You just get 3 months off, and then
Okay.
the rest of the year.
I get like a month off. Yeah, you wonder where all the money's coming from fireworks. It's like, how is this happening still?
BT, are you a fireworks guy?
I love them. I really enjoy fireworks. Now I'm never in charge of setting them off. I have all my fingers, but I always like to go to places where they're doing a bunch of fireworks. So I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be a lot of fun. I'm curious how many fireworks you think we're going to see from the Cardinals offense over the course of the next week, BT, because it's been a rough go of it lately for them.
Here's what I love, okay? I give you an alley-oop and you actually slam it down. That was very good. It was a perfect transition.
Thanks,
this was, look, fireworks were aplenty early in the season for this Cardinal offense. I mean, you looked at the first month and a half, I don't think anybody was expecting them to be a top 10 offense in pretty much every category, especially home runs. And they were, and they are harder to come by right now. Offense outside of the first inning was very hard to come by last night for the club. But I think that you're going to get that. And I was talking earlier about when you have this young club, you're going to have so many ebbs and flows to it, and you have so many young guys that are making adjustments, and you're never going to have an offense that's all firing at the same time. But it feels like when no one's hitting, it just feels totally flat, right? Like nothing's like they're not putting the energy into it. I promise they are. It just hasn't come to fruition. The hard part is being able to bottle it. We saw a torrid start from Jordan Walker. It's funny, right? When that guy's not hitting homers at a crazy pace, your offense looks flat. I think that you could say that about a lot of offenses when 3-4 in your order or 2-3 in the order aren't doing big things. Your overall offense doesn't look the same. So fair or not, right, those are the guys that you really lean on for some of those power numbers. So hopefully for the Cardinals, those big-time pop, that the home run numbers start flowing again for Jordan and continue to flow for Burley. And I still think that there's a lot more there from a power standpoint for Herrera.
So, BT, we talked about this in the open, and this is, part of the evaluation process, right? Like you see guys have an incredible start to the year, and the league adjusts, and now they have to adjust. But as fans, how do you watch these players when they're going through this rut like that, and how do you evaluate them if you're the front office?
Yeah, I watch that, and I say to myself, been there. I know what that's like. Just walk in their shoes again. No, it is. So what you want to see, and what you were expecting to see this entire year was young guys trying to figure it out at this level. And many have figured it out a little bit earlier. But if you're watching this from a front office perspective, you want to see growth. You want to see growth throughout the season. And that growth isn't only in the aspect of, hey, what does the average look like, or OPS, or hard hit rates. You also want to see growth like as a professional. Like, how are you handling situations? Are you thinking about situations as they arise? Are you ahead of the game? Like, mentally, have you caught up to the big league level? Because I promise you there are a couple of guys right now, and probably more than a couple, that are in the big leagues but might not mentally be at that big league level yet. It's hard, man. This game moves so fast. So I think that those are things that you're kind of looking at from a front office standpoint, is just growth. There is a bigger gap now, and this is something I was doing a Q&A the other night at Busch Stadium with Bill DeWitt III and with Rob Cerfolio, assistant GM, and he's in charge of player performance. And he was saying, man, there's a bigger gap now than ever from AAA to the big leagues. And, like, we all know that has always been a jump, but it's never been the jump that it is now because the minor leagues are so young. Guys are getting to the big leagues and still learning how to play baseball and still learning, like, themselves. So teaching at this level has never been more important. So really, I mean, what you're looking for is just that growth throughout the season, and that growth can come through tough times. Like, how you deal with some of the struggles is part of what an organization is looking at.
All right, BT, we'll get you out of here on this one. Ivan Herrera, by the way, we're talking to Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst for Cardinals TV. Ivan Herrera the other night caught the Matthew Liberatore start. And, I don't know how to value this stuff because it's hard on the outside looking in. But he hasn't caught a base runner in the last few seasons. Last time that he caught a base runner was back in 2024. And yet, you look at what he does with Matthew Liberatore, and he was able to guide him through the game, and he had his best start in a while, like a long time. And that feels like it's more valuable than the ability to throw out the base runners. How would you evaluate what we've seen from Ivan Herrera behind the plate this year?
That's a great question, and I wish it were hyperbole. By the way, when you say he hasn't thrown a guy out in years, like literally years, but you're right. Well, number one, the number one value, and whatever it happens. Apparently, I guess that's the thing. But the overall value, as we know, and this isn't talking about the Liberatore start, but in general, the overall value is his bat. Like that bat at that position is a game changer, right? So that is number one, like the thing that you're going to evaluate with Herrera throughout. But he, behind the plate, he has really dug in. He has become a better game caller. I still think that in terms like Pedro Paz is a very, very good big league catcher. And when it comes to game planning, when it comes to retaining information, like he is very high up there on the list. For Herrera, he's going to be a few steps behind that and still trying to figure out things along the way. That's why, not shifting gears here, but like heaping some praise on Pedro. He's handled this whole three catcher thing and his playing time being limited extremely well, and he's in there helping out the other guys every single day because he's been a huge asset for Ivan Herrera behind the plate. But when you're looking at specifically that game where he catches Matthew Liberatore and the success that Libby had in that ball game, man, sometimes different ideas and a different presence and a different voice, those can be good things. Sometimes you have that little your fuzzy blanket that you hold, and that's Pedro for Libby, and it has been. Sometimes you need to pull that away and say, all right, this is what you got now. How do you guys work together? And that seemed to work. So I believe that I know, like, Ivan wants to catch. He will, like, we could look at his skill set and say, man, this guy should be a DH, could be a DH first baseman. Well, you got a first baseman. He wants to catch. He's really dug into it, and he continues to grow at the position. So I hope we see that continue. I do wonder, and I'm interested to see what it's going to look like with Libby going forward. Will you see that pairing a lot more often? I don't know. We're gonna find out. But it worked, and I think it put actually a little bit of more onus on Libby for that ball game too, of, hey, you're thinking through this as well, like go battle, go compete, and it worked out. So whatever the psychology was behind that one, it worked, and I think we'll end up seeing more of it.
Legit changes too. I mean, it was the second time this year that we've seen something other than his four-seam fastball be the most thrown pitch in the game, and it was the first time this year that pitch was the slider. So there were legit changes in some of the pitch usage. BT, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk with you again soon.
All right, you guys too. I'll talk to you next week.
You got it. That's Brad Thompson joining us here on 101 ESPN. He joins us each and every week on BK and Ferrario. Anything to add on?
No. Were you looking for something? Were you looking for something?
Yeah, normally we do this.
I thought we voiced our opinions already, and plus it was 1:15, and I figured we wanted to stay on clock because we got Goold at 1:30.
Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, going to join us coming up at 1:30 today here on BK and Ferrario. I'm going to do one more dealer's choice for you. All right, Alex? You ready?
Jeez. Believe it or not, that's my choice.
Coming up on the other side.
Believe it or not.
Would you guys rather do, believe it or not, One's Got to Go, or talk a little bit more about the Cardinals?
They stink.
I like One's Got to Go, though. I really do like One's Got to Go.
Want to do it?
I think we do One's Got to Go.
Yeah.
That's going to piss the people off, but I want One's Got to Go.
I think 4th of July
Coming up
draft.
next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. I'm not going to say what I want to say. You give us four different options. We'll tell you which one's got to go next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one has got to go. Over on the YouTube page, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL, a new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast has officially been posted. It is an hour and 12 minutes.
A lot.
If you want Blues content, I've got the place for you. Alex, what did you guys discuss today?
Everything. We started with the Kyrou trade because we haven't. The last episode we did was the day before Kyrou trade went down. We had our draft show, so we talked the McTavish and Carlo trades. We talked the signings. We talked about some of the roster moves that are going to have to take place if the Blues are even done, and Steen kind of putting his stamp on what this roster is going to look like. So tons of hockey talk to get into, so check it out.
We will also have a new edition of the Redbird Report later on this afternoon as well.
Baby.
So stay tuned for that. Also,
before
on the
they
YouTube
lose to the
page,
Braves in the series?
YouTube.com.
Oh, sorry.
/101 ESPN STL. Let's get into One's Gotta Go from the 618. One's Gotta Go. Blonde, brunette, or redhead?
Whoa.
Redhead.
A redhead.
Really?
Yeah. Never been a redhead guy.
Shouldn't have said that. My old boss at the old soda shop was a redhead, but
I think she'll be okay with that. Yeah, I was going to say, do you still
don't have
work
to be
there?
attracted to somebody with red hair.
You worried about getting fired from the soda shop?
Well, I might need a
I
second
would actually
backup
go blonde.
plan.
Well, don't ever talk to my wife that way. So,
Okay, well,
bleep
it's
you,
okay
man.
if I'm not interested in your wife.
Brunettes, then.
It's probably a good thing.
Brunettes. Get out of here.
Hey, man, it does not bother me if you're not attracted to my wife. That is not something that I'm going to be upset about, I promise.
You know what? I didn't plan on One's Gotta Go's gonna go here.
One's Gotta Go from Incoherent Voice
BK
Text.
hates all of you blondes out there, so just remember that.
No. It's just not my type.
Thinking of
And
going
that's okay.
blonde.
If
Guess I
you don't
won't
like
anymore.
very dark hair,
Losers.
What's your
I'm
point of
probably
me?
not for you. Pointing to myself.
I don't
I'm
like
probably
big
not
noses.
for you. That's probably
Or
not
Adam's
me.
apples.
Or huge Adam's apples.
See?
I don't like glasses.
That's okay.
Don't you wear them?
Yeah.
I'm not for everybody.
Just at night.
But for some
You
people,
got your hot cocoa in a book.
very few people, maybe one person, I'm their type.
Maybe one, buddy. Hopefully one, right?
Yeah, just my wife. All right,
My
from
wife.
Incoherent Voice Text. One's Gotta Go Cardinals edition. Walker, Weatherholt, Winn, or Graceffo. Graceffo, come on.
Whoa, win. Get rid of the fireman.
I couldn't help but watch last night and go, man, I can't wait to see Gastelum.
Did Graceffo
And
give
I
up a
think
lot of
he's
runs?
potentially taking Graceffo or Brule's rule.
Who gave up the runs last night?
Hey, you don't have to tell me
I
to
forgot.
just move on
I forgot.
from Brule.
Who gave up those
I'm
runs?
ready. I'm fine. I'm fine with getting rid of.
Cool, yeah. You keep Graceffo's name out of your mouth.
I mean,
One's
he didn't
Gotta
stop
Go
the bleeding, but whatever.
Firework edition.
None of them.
Cakes, fountains, bottle rockets, or sparklers. Can somebody explain cakes to me? I'm not familiar.
I think
I don't know what
I
cakes
honestly
are.
don't know. I see advertisement. Cakes aren't the ones that pop, right?
A cake firework. These are the ones that go way up. The
I
tube
thought all
device.
fireworks go way up. What fireworks don't go way up? I'm curious.
Firecrackers. This is a legit
not a
firework,
firework.
I think.
What's the
don't
difference
know.
between a firework
I
and
think
a
it might be the
firecracker?
ones that like it.
Explodes and
It
then
goes
slowly comes down.
I think all of them do that too, buddy.
I'm not explaining
with the
this well
exception
at
of
all.
smoke
It's like a
bombs.
sparkler, but it is in a self-contained device that you put on the ground instead of holding
Oh,
it.
I know
It's
what
the
you're talking about.
it's the finale ones.
No,
It's the finale.
no. These are not the actual fireworks. It's ones that are on the ground like this, Alex, and it's like a sparkler, but it's on the ground instead of being
Yeah, those are lame.
in your hand.
Those
Yeah,
are lame.
I
All of them
figured
are
that.
all of them are lame. But the bottle rockets are the biggest pointless.
I just would call that a fountain, but whatever.
But the bottle rockets are the most pointless ones. They don't do anything. They just pop.
I like bottle rockets.
Well, of course
I
you
would
do.
probly get rid of these cakes. They do nothing for
At
me.
least the cakes
with
have
you.
colors with them. The bottle rockets do nothing.
But they're fun.
Why? Why are they
go,
fun? What? So you light it and goes up in the air like
More of a
Or you shoot them
whistle.
at each other.
that's
Whoa,
a terrible
hey.
idea.
You know how I had bottle rocket wars?
See, you're the problem
no,
with fireworks.
No, well.
You're the problem. No, I do Roman candles.
You're
I
a
light them and then
safety
point them
hazard.
at people.
314-399-9646 is the
Fireworks.
Air Comfort Service text line. As
They all should be
a
banned.
disclaimer, don't do that. You should not do
Yeah.
bottle rocket wars. I was like 12.
I think Jason Pierre-Paul had one of those and didn't turn out too well
Well,
for
his
him.
was a legit firework that
say,
blew
not
up
Not a
on his hand.
firecracker.
No. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. 4-1's got to go. From Vazzini, one's got to go. Soccer vernacular, the pitch, the kits, the brace, or pick another one of your choice.
T-Bone, what's a brace?
I'm assuming just a knee brace.
I'll
that
tell
must
you
not be it. I don't know.
I'll tell you the one that pisses me off. So it would be the your choice.
A brace in soccer is when a player scores at least 2 goals in the same match.
Oh, so are they hat tricks in soccer if you score 3?
Yeah.
Is it really? So it's still considered that. Oh, see, it's like hockey. I hate people that say nil instead of 0. What does it matter? I know European sports, so we're going with nil. It's 0. I'm watching it in America. I'll call it 0.
I don't have an issue. Like, if the announcer's from Europe,
that's fine.
And they use European
But don't
lingo.
get mad at me if I say last night the score was 1-0.
Exactly. That's kind of how I view it is, listen, man, if that is the proper English way to say things and you are English, man, God bless you. Like, you say it however you grew up.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody in America talking to other American friends about a sport that we are just getting into in America for some of us, I don't think that you need to have the exact same terminology. Like, if somebody from Europe called a football field, like American football, the field's a pitch, that would not bother me.
No, it's what they're
you
accustomed
call
to.
that thing, right? Like, if somebody in Europe called a basketball court something different, that's fine.
The hardwood.
That is if that's what they would refer to it as, that is your lingo for the sport that you are consuming in your own way.
I had a guy.
I find it all so silly.
I had a guy that worked at KMOX when I was there doing sports reports on Sunday mornings he was a big soccer fan. And every time I would say 1-0, he would get upset. And he would interrupt me and say, it's 1-0, Alex. And I'm like, what? Who cares, man?
Yeah, I think it's silly.
I would say get rid of kit. I don't know why, but it just doesn't.
I just never reference that.
I can call it a jersey.
Yeah.
Again,
it's all right.
Again,
it's like in hockey, Alex. Sorry, but when people get upset that you call it a jersey instead of a sweater, whatever. It's the same thing.
I don't know if this would fit. I think it would towards soccer terminology. You know, the thing that I can't stand is when you put FC or SC on the back end of your team name. Especially the MLS doing it. Because you know what? In Europe, I get it, right? Those leagues have been around forever. That's what they've done. The MLS started with Chicago Fire, LA Galaxy, Vancouver Whitecaps. And then at some point said, let's just call everybody FC or SC.
It used to be the Kansas City Wizards.
Oh.
And they changed their name to Sporting KC.
Let's put a name on it, okay?
646 made a great point. If you're going to use soccer terminology, you have to use a British accent. Only way you're allowed to use it.
From the 314, 4th of July, one's got to go. Brats, burgers, ribs, or steaks?
Burgers.
I'm starting to hate steaks as being a 4th of July thing.
Oh, really? I would. Anything that you
pork
grill.
Steak.
Yeah, anything you grill at that
I'm really
point.
out on that.
And I choose steaks. Dude, I'm starting to dislike burgers more and more.
Really?
The more I make them at home, and it's probably me, they're just not as juicy by the time I get done cooking them on the grill.
Are you overcooking them?
No, I don't think so. They only go on there for a short amount of time. I just wonder if I'm not putting the proper ingredients when you mix the sirloin steak together. But yeah, every time I do it, they just come out dry. So I think I would prefer the other ones.
And I love a good burger. I would get rid of steak. I don't eat steak that often. I'm just not a big steak guy.
If I can make steak, I would. It's just so freaking expensive to make steak. I love me a good brat, too. If you gave me a brat or a hot dog, I'd be going brat. Oh, yeah. Stazitza's an even better one. Oh, man.
From the 314, usefulness of analytics. Which one's got to go? NFL, MLB, NHL, or NBA? For me, it's NFL. It's so hard to use analytics in the NFL, man.
I feel like
there are just so many different factors on any given play.
Analytics in the NBA for?
Oh, a ton.
Really?
Shot selection, most notably.
Oh, God. It goes to show you, I just figure it's shoot the ball.
In the game and
Get the ball and shoot it, man.
No, that's
if you're
where
open, take the shot.
That's where the layups and threes have come from because they're a high percentage make it as a layup.
Well, that's obvious, though. Why do I need analytics to tell me that? If I got two options of the 3 point...
It was not obvious for a really long time.
Well, that's because Steph Curry ruined basketball.
Sure,
everybody
but for
taking
a really
threes.
long time, teams would take mid-range jumpers over a 3 because it is an easier shot, quote unquote, which is true. But if you make,
I meant 3 versus the layup. Why do I need analytics to tell me that it's better for me to take a layup than a 3-pointer? If I'm under the basket, that's going to be an easier basket for me.
Correct. I'm talking about you.
Yeah, the mid-range versus 3.
Prioritize layups and threes and have basically rejected all mid-range jumpers because analytically they are not good shots. Now, for some guys, they are actually good shots because they shoot them at such a high percentage. Like Chris Paul used to be amazing at the mid-range jumper.
DeRozan.
And for those guys, it's pretty good. But for most players, it's not technically considered to be a good shot.
I feel like
baseball
that's one
of many uses of analytics.
Baseball and hockey, there's some real value
See,
to
I
it.
find hockey's analytics tough to really get a gauge on it because, like, you can look at a player's thing, but then you have to look at what his line mate is, right? Like, when I think of analytics, I always think baseball's the best because it's the 1v1, right?
Absolutely.
It's you versus a certain pitch or you versus a certain pitcher. I think it's hard in the other three sports. I mean, just choosing one, I would agree with BK. I'd say NFL, but if we got rid of it in the other three sports, I'd be A-okay with it.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, we'll be joined by our friend, the Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Derrick Goold, joins us here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Braves last night 5-1. The rubber match of their three-game set in Atlanta is tonight, 6:15 first pitch. Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
In the Cardinals' last 8 games, the offense has gone extremely quiet. This is the offense that we all kind of feared going into this season. Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, joins us now to discuss it on BK and Ferrario. Derrick, appreciate the time as always. I remember right before the start of the season, we had a conversation about how is this team going to score runs? How are they going to put points on the board? And we've seen that realized over the last couple of weeks. What have you made of this?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is they're going to struggle to do so. When they got off to such a good start, there was a lot of power there from Jordan Walker. There was power there from J.J. Weatherholt, and power is the great equalizer, right? But they knew all along that they were going to have to be a lineup that stuffed the bases full and then overflowed in runs. Lars Nootbaar would be a big part of that. Or kind of
3, 2, 1.
You waited a while to say and then count to 3. Like you gave it some time there. You're like,
I was going to give it an opportunity to see if Derrick was able
10,
to get it figured out.
9.
Man, we're in here. We've got the weather on right now. The heat indexes for the next 3 days are just 100 plus
I know.
every
That's
day.
why people were giving me crap about golfing at 6:30 tomorrow. I said, I'm going to beat the heat.
My God.
First on the course, done by 10, home before it's 90.
Do you think maybe that'll heat up the Cardinals?
No, the opposite actually happens. The hotter it gets, the worse it is out there.
Damn.
Doesn't even heat up Sonny Gray when he's on the mound.
Well, he's been pitching very well
Because
lately.
where's he at?
In Boston.
Yeah, where
Think
it's
not hot there?
I think it's not 110 on humidity index.
Derrick Goold joining us again here on 101 ESPN. Derrick, you were talking about the lack of power that they've had lately and how that's influenced their issues. You can go ahead and continue on with that thought.
No, it stands out, right? When you go a home stand and, Permine is providing the home runs, and you look over the last few stretches and it's Velasquez hitting the home runs and not kind of the power group of Walker and Burleson that you're relying on, it's not a surprise that the offense kind of sags a little bit. And they're just not getting on base much. Last night, the Braves pitched very well. Atlanta pitched very well, threw a lot of different looks at the Cardinals. But overall, you're just seeing them not generate the abundance of base runners and not the power. And it's a bad recipe for offense.
Derrick, do you get the sense in talking to people around the team or talking to the players that this is the league adjusting to the Cardinals' success? Is it guys just not feeling like they're in a good spot? Like, what is their explanation for what's happened that's leading to this lack of production?
I think some of it is as simple as they're facing better pitching. I think, you look at this stretch in particular, we all know, right? They're 14 consecutive games against teams above them in the standings. You look back to some of the looks that they got from even teams that aren't particularly great, but they threw good pitchers at the Cardinals. I think that's a big part of it. I think maybe on an individual level you're seeing that somewhat, but JJ feels ahead of the curve. He'll have a game where he's seeing something new, or he's seeing a pitcher he hasn't, or a team has a good approach with him, but then he adjusts really rapidly. I don't think you're seeing the spiral from Jordan Walker where it gets to a point where he just can't make the adjustments. But I think overall they're just facing a really tough stretch of pitchers and some guys who are pitching well against them. It's been you look at Arizona, right? Arizona is not where they want to be in the standings, and we're pretty snug to the Cardinals. But they got good pitching in that series, and that series could have gone either way. The first game, the Diamondbacks kind of bemoaned the fact that they didn't get the big hit that the Cardinals did, and the Cardinals did, and they won. And ever since that game, it's the Arizona that's had some really big hits, whether they're playing the Cardinals or somebody else, and the Cardinals have not. And I think you look at that series, and you might overlook the pitching there, but it was pretty good against the Cardinals. And that signaled kind of this stretch.
Derrick, at some point, if the offense continues to scuffle, the noise of Joshua Baez will get louder and louder. Is that something you think the Cardinals consider, or is this just a matter of, look, we're going to ride this thing out because these guys are going to have to adjust like baseball's adjusted?
Yeah, I think they consider all of that, and they have to factor into where would he play Is center an option for him? Is center an option for Nootbaar to open that up? How much are they giving up on defense to make that happen? That's the calculus that is actually going on, right? And then also like looking at how Joshua Baez has got to his numbers down there. I think, we have seen such a significant change in the predictive models because of analytics and metrics and because of what teams are using. And that is more so true than ever for the Cardinals, who feel now they have the tech and the manpower to really set forth on these predictive models. And they'll look at, what Baez is doing, how he's getting to the numbers in AAA. And they feel they have a really good handle on how that will translate to the majors and the struggles he'll have and the swing and miss he'll have and how he needs to make strides to close that where he is without experiencing that at the major league level. So I think all those things are factored in. But one thing to kind of stress the fans, and we can argue whether or not the Cardinals are right about this or other teams are right about this, just as the notion of how much they've invested and how much they look at, how much they trust these predictive models for how players are performing at the lower levels.
We're talking to Derrick Goold here on 101 ESPN. Derrick, when I look at what they've done with the catcher position over the last few days, it's been really interesting. They have Ivan Herrera go behind the plate for Matthew Liberatore, and then yesterday they go the opposite way. Out of curiosity, do they view this as a change in their plan? Are they now going to switch up who these catchers are paired with? What is your understanding of their plans with that moving forward?
So this is definitely something to watch in progress here. The expectation is that Crooks catches tonight, right? So that'll be back-to-back for him. But that will also be with Dustin May. So it allows for the Cardinals to reset a bit where you don't have you don't have McGreevy and Palante going back-to-back. So they avoid Herrera catching one of the two, right? Because that's the priority. Again and again and again over the last week, and particularly yesterday at the ballpark, Ali Marmol has stressed that sort of their guiding light here is not having Herrera catching back-to-back games, and that they are now more willing to kind of maneuver around that so that he is catching guys who aren't McGreevy, aren't Palante, and aren't, in a spot where it's only those guys, just to avoid the double up. This was something that they chose to do where they wanted to get Dustin May that break from the rotation, and then it also afforded them this chance to give Herrera and these pitchers another look at catcher, or Herrera another look at pitcher. So it was part of the plan. It was going to happen. It was the rainout just kind of brought it all to the surface a little bit quicker. And then they were looking at this Dustin May game as the one where they could go back to the previous kind of setup.
Do you think, Derrick, at some point this season we get to the point where they're using Herrera more as the primary catcher?
I think they're going to really studiously avoid that back-to-back because they've been so encouraged by his health. You think back over the last few years, and he's missed time with sore knees, sore lower back, even to spring training when he kind of really moved into the catcher's, workout schedule. Remember that? He wasn't doing full catcher at the start of spring because he still was recovering from his surgery. So he's blocking balls and everything like that, but not doing the whole thing. When he started doing that, he missed some time with the sore lower back. So they are conscious of that, and they realize that, I think he's one of two players who've appeared in every game, and they would like to keep that. They like this setup quite a bit because of those returns.
Derrick Goold, our guest here on 101 ESPN. Derrick, do you think he's more likely to catch, it seems like maybe Palante would be the first one, and then do you think he's more likely to catch Libby or McGreevy after that?
That's a great question. I think they might go with this Libby thing for a bit, right? I think they might want to take another look at that. Herrera did pretty well taking ownership, or he did really well taking ownership of that preparation, and he had not caught Liberatore in more than, a year and a half. And, he'd been involved in, obviously, the pregame prep and all the conversations and everything like that, but he had not been behind the plate for Liberatore in a long time. And even Liberatore brought it up and said, like, he's just matured so much in that time with his feel for the game. And, you know, Liberatore was talking about, and Herrera described this too, because there was a time where Herrera said, look, the scout, like, you know, he's like, the scouting report and our plans and everything at this moment says throw a curveball. This is the time to throw a curveball. And Liberatore couldn't get a grip on a curveball. His hands were too sweaty. His cap was too sweaty. There wasn't enough rosin for him to get a really good grip. And so Herrera ditched the curveball for that moment and thought of something else, like called another pitch to pull it off. And Liberatore was talking about just that confidence and that feel is different than last time Herrera caught him, which again was a long time ago. You know, everybody was very impressed. I talked to Pedro Paez, who Herrera caught that game when Pedro Paez might have, right? Mm-hmm. And Pedro Paez talked about how just like what a feel Liberatore and Herrera had for each other and adjusting during the game. He complimented both of their ability to kind of read what they were seeing from the Braves and adjust and expand upon what they went into the game with. So I think that's something that they want to take another look at. If for no other reason, then I mean, it really worked, and all parties were pretty excited, and they really were really encouraged by Herrera's interest in driving that and pursuing and helping Liberatore.
All right, Derrick, we'll get you out of here on this. The big news, non-Cardinals related, but I guess tangentially related to them, is John Mozeliak taking over as the interim general manager with the LA Angels of Anaheim. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Derrick. Twofold. One, just on him taking that job at this time. And then two, do you think that there will be people within the Cardinals organization that John Mozeliak looks to as potential long-term answers as the general manager with the Angels if he decides not to take that position?
So to your last question first, I would be surprised if he takes the general manager position. If he takes a president of baseball operations job or some sort of elevated job within the club, I would not be surprised at all. But if he were to say, if he were to kind of do the Dick Cheney thing and look around the room and go, yeah, I'm the best guy for the job, I would be surprised if he took the GM job. He can almost guarantee that he will look to the Cardinals. He has a strong working relationship with Randy Flores and Moises Rodriguez. Those are two gentlemen who have been assistant general managers for a while. They have the eyes of other teams. They're considered rising talents, not rising talents. They're established talents in front offices, and their names will get kicked around. Randy Flores being a Southern California guy. If Mozeliak wasn't in charge of the GM search for the Angels, Flores would be considered. Now he has the guy who hired him, who brought him into baseball, brought him into baseball ops, who he's known for the better part of his adult life. Now that guy is leading the job search. So you can, it doesn't take much to connect the dots there and the look that Randy Flores will get for that position. And then, of course, like Rob Cerfolio, who is really widely respected as a guy who is a rising executive. So the Cardinals have named folks who are going to be involved in searches, and, at least one of them would be involved in the search, even if I wasn't involved. Now, to your first question about was I surprised that he took it? He had really stressed guys that he was not real eager to jump back into baseball, and things Mo has a wry, sometimes sarcastic, sometimes skewering sense of humor. I don't know if you guys know this or not.
We've been on the receiving end.
I work with somebody who sounds very similar to him, Derrick.
Hey.
Yeah, I hope not. I would hope not.
You should hear some of the comments, Derrick.
Stop.
Okay. All right. Well, he can have a withering sense of humor too, and I've been on the side of that. Sometimes I give it back.
I think Mo was in the phone line. There we go. We got you, Derrick.
Yeah, sorry. He has a withering sense of humor, but there's truth in it. Obviously, he was not and didn't want to jump at the next opportunity. And even like people close to him were telling in the baseball that he would take a chance to look for the right one. This is very interesting that he thought this was the right one.
Derrick, we appreciate the time, man. Just real quick before we get you out of here, if the Cardinals had an injury in their rotation, I told you that was the last question, but I've got one more follow-up. If the Cardinals had an injury in their rotation today, who do you think they would call up as their new starter? Who's the sixth guy right now?
Well, they were going to do it last week, and it's Bryson Motts. So they were going to have Mott start in May's place. The rain just washed that away.
If they had a long-term absence, you think he would be the answer?
Ooh, I think
I should have asked it that way.
Great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I think they go in aggregate. I think you might see a little Motts, Dobbins, tag team.
Okay. You don't think Matthews is there yet?
I think Matthews is on the cusp. I think they still want to see that, some of this stuff really translate start to start, not just be there maybe this start. It's when he starts putting together like the 4 in a row with the velocity and the movement and the success that you're going to start seeing like him be more in the conversation. I cannot stress that enough, that the predictability models and what they can count on getting is such a big part of their decision tree right now.
Derrick, we appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself this weekend for the 4th. We appreciate the time. We'll talk with you again next week.
Yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about because Wrigley always gives us plenty to talk about.
Yeah, 4th of July weekend at Wrigley, it always delivers. Appreciate you, Derrick.
All right, guys. Have a great holiday.
You too, Derrick. That's Derrick Goold joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. We sincerely appreciate his time as always. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind, finish this thing up here on a holiday week on BK and Ferrario. Hey, you can join myself and Alex Ferrario on Monday night with Michelob Ultra at Hot Shots in Fenton as the U.S. men's national team is set to take on Belgium in the round of 16. Myself, Alex, and Michelob Ultra will be on site as Ultra has giveaway starting at 6. Kickoff for the U.S. men's team versus Belgium at 7. Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer and the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26. So be sure to enjoy an Ultra as you cheer on your favorite team. That's Monday starting at 6 with myself, BK, and Alex Ferrario. Michelob Ultra at Hot Shots in Fenton for the U.S. men's national team against Belgium. That starts at 7. Again, we'll be there starting at 6. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page after the show today at 101ESPN.com or the free 101 ESPN app. Those podcasts are sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
You can also check out the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast, today's edition of the BK and Ferrario Show, or the upcoming edition of the Redbird Report at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Somebody on the YouTube chat says, what time is McTavish on today? He will have his press conference today at 3 o'clock, and you'll be able to hear that today on the Fast Lane. Alex, before we get out of here today, let's quickly recap some of the biggest topics of the day in today's BK and Ferrario Rewind. Let's start with the Cardinals. The offense has gone cold. They've got Atlanta again today with Dustin May on the mound. You are going up against a pitcher on the other side who has a 0 ERA and has so far in his season exactly 2 innings pitched. This is a young starter in Hurston Waldrop.
He hasn't given up a run.
He is a right-handed pitcher. How you feeling for the Cardinals going into tonight's game?
I haven't had good vibes for this team since that Padres series, and I'm worried about the offense, like we've talked so much about. I mean, I feel fine that Dustin May's on the mound. He's been the stopper, and I feel like he will be good. But if you're not getting Walker coming up with the big hits, then I think your offense is going to struggle. So I think they lose this series.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the offense just does enough tonight to get you over the hump here, but it's going to be tough. And I'm fascinated to see what May looks like, right? I mean, he's been off a while now, so I'll be curious to see if there's any rust there, because if he can get back to what he was prior to that Royals series when he got blown up in those 2 innings while he was dealing with the back tightness, he's going to give them a chance to win tonight. It's just a matter of, can the offense do enough?
We will not talk again prior to this Cubs series either. And Wrigley is a place, especially this time of the year, you should be able to produce some offense there. And their pitching is in a bad spot right now. They've got Peterson starting tomorrow night, David Peterson. That guy was just a cast-off from the New York Mets. They said, go away. You've got a 6 ERA. We're done with you here. Been pretty good so far for the Cubs, but you should be able to put up runs in that series. And if you can't, I will be very concerned about what you're going to be able to do against Milwaukee when you play them 5 times in 4 days next week here in St. Louis. So big weekend for the Cardinals offense. U.S. men's national team, huge win yesterday. T-Bone, you're our resident soccer guy. What'd you think of their win and what it sets up for on Monday?
I mean, it was impressive as hell that they got that win last night, especially when they went down to 10 men. The fact that they were able to overcome that and not allow Bosnia to get momentum and tie that game or worse is impressive, especially because that was a red card that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been a red. I know they went to VAR. VAR said it was. I think that should have been a yellow. They were able to bounce back, and I think they're going to give Belgium a good run for their money on Monday. I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup, especially since Belgium's getting on the older side.
Red card sucks, man, having to live with
I'm
that.
fascinated
I just don't know how they viewed that as a red card. That was crazy.
If you guys missed our show, we had Craig Johnson, who was the assistant coach with the Anaheim Ducks for a couple of seasons, coached Masyn McTavish, was with Greg Cronin there as well, got his insight into some of the Blues offseason editions. We also talked to Jeff Marek, to Brad Thompson, and to Derrick Goold. You can find all of that on the podcast page after the show today. For Alex, for T-Bone, I'm BK. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Have a safe holiday weekend.
Don't be stupid.
Please be safe out there. Show up on Monday with all 10 of your fingers.
All 5 of us.
And please also, if you're going to go out there and drink, just call an Uber. Get
or
yourself
BK.
an Uber. Yeah, I'll come pick you up as well.
Put your number out there right now for everybody. Give me a call.
Talk to you on Monday at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's next year on 101 ESPN.